Hey, hey, we're chubby.
That's right.
We're drinking
Busch Light.
We're chubby bartenders. Got a special guest with us. We're chubby bartenders. That's right.
That's right.
Yes, tune in. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a special guest with us here tonight. We've got Mr. Sandy Hendrix over here, and he is with the pipeline here that just came through Appalachia and Southern Ohio. So we're going to spend a few hours here, or as long as we want to, talking about that type of thing. But real quick, we want to tell you guys about AP Prep and how if you guys are looking to earn the day and be your best you, go see our buddies Jason Prater and the boys over in Chillicothe, Ohio at AP Prep. You can visit their website at apprep.info. If you want to earn the day, go see those guys. And after you're done with AP Prep and you got your workout and burned all your calories, stop by our boy Brad Munn's McDonald's of Jackson, Wellston, Oak Hill, and MacArthur. Those guys, man, they've been giving back to this local community for so many years, too many years to count, and they do a great job, and they are a huge employer for Southern Ohio, so make sure that you always supporting your local McDonald's. They do a lot in our local community. So go see McDonald's, get you an apple fritter.
Hey, let's talk about Geiger Brothers.
Ooh, Scott Massey.
Scott Massey are one of our favorites. Geiger Brothers Contracting. What is Geiger Brothers? Well, they are commitment, knowledge, and innovation. That's what sets them apart. They do anything from engineering to building. They take it all the way. If you want to get in contact with Geiger Brothers, simply call 740-288-0800. Geiger Brothers.
Go see Massey. He'll build you anything.
Yeah. And hey, I don't know who has your insurance.
Hey.
But we might want to check out Gillum Insurance for all your insurance needs. Life, business, farm, auto, home, commercial, full line. How do they get a hold of Gillum Insurance?
Give us a call, 740-395-0357. Is that 740-395-0357? All right. We got Sandy Hendrix, not Jimmy.
No, it's not Jimmy.
Not Jimmy.
Sandy, not Jimmy.
Sandy, not Jimmy.
One of my nicknames. Not Jimmy.
Good to have you, sir. Good to have you. So, Sandy, Chad, I don't know if I told you this, but Sandy and I met down at the Stockroom 601.
Okay.
He was staying. You've been a resident.
Yeah, 4 months.
4 months now. So he came here with the pipeline crew, and he's been a regular at the Stockroom 601. We appreciate your business, man.
Yeah.
You've turned into kind of our buddy. I mean, it's
probably not a lot to do at night.
There's not.
Here.
I mean, Jackson is about the size of the town I'm from, down by Houston.
Okay.
So you're from Houston, Texas.
A town near there. From where we live, we can't smell Houston, so we figure we're at a good distance.
Good distance, yeah.
What town? I'm over there a good bit.
Liberty.
It's
halfway between Beaumont and Houston.
Okay, so you're on the other side of Houston. I go to Galveston once a year.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, my headquarters is in Galveston.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I fly into Houston, and then what do I take there? I drive it.
45?
45. I take that all the way to Galveston. I stay at the Moody Gardens.
Oh, yeah. It's nice over there.
Nice place, yeah.
We stay down there about once a year. We get on the seawall or somewhere, and go down there and have some.
Look at that.
Easy.
Look at that.
Control.
Easy.
My goodness.
Makeup.
Steve?
Yeah.
Steve, I will hit the ashtray, though.
Hey, it must be contagious, Steve. I was last week. I was all over the table, and I'm surrounded by way too many bottles and glasses right now. I mean, I've
noticed that we've got a lot going on here already. We're not even going.
Yeah. Well, Sandy shared with me that he is originally from Oklahoma. So I pulled out the old Lead Slingers whiskey that was started by 5 former Special Forces veterans.
It's really good.
And they started distilling whiskey. Yes, it's different. Brought to us courtesy of Jeff Matthews.
Ooh, okay, all right.
So I thought we would try that out tonight. Heck, they're bourbon. They're distilling bourbon everywhere now, man. I mean,
really?
Not just
never
Kentucky.
had this one. Never had it.
Yeah, well, I think it's relatively new to the market.
Is it legal to make your own bourbon?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean,
you can probably make it, not sell it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm probably the same as anything else. I mean, I think the thing you got to watch about bourbon is that's one of the few cocktails that they take very seriously. The U.S. government does, because that's the American drink.
Yeah.
And they want to preserve the integrity of it. So you can brew it in any state, or not brew, distill in any state, but you have to use Kentucky limestone filtered water.
Oh, okay.
For it to be a bourbon.
It's similar to Scotch. You know,
Same thing,
I'm a Scotch drinker, and people say, well, you know, do you get Scotch from America? Well, I said, it only comes from Scotland. That's what makes it Scotch.
Yeah, yeah.
It has
Absolutely.
to be distilled there and then aged there 3 years or more to be a Scotch they can export.
So all Scotch comes from Scotland.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't know you were a Scotch drinker. We've got a very unique
we
bottle of
should've-
Scotch
yeah,
over there.
we've got
Oh, wow.
for you to try.
Yeah, commemorative
love to try that.
Johnny Walker White.
It's a commemorative edition of Johnny Walker. It's a distillery edition, and what they were trying to do was go back to their original roots and
Oh, wow.
flavors. So, Scotch is kind of lost on Pudge and I.
It's,
I think it's an acquired taste,
Yeah.
and I think that you learn more about it. And I'm not extraordinarily educated in it, so I'll have to, I would love for you to try that. Kind of let us know what you think of it.
I'd love to try it.
Okay.
I really never drank Scotch until I went to Scotland about 10 years ago and we spent 2 weeks just driving around Scotland. And the first night we were there, we stayed in a bed and breakfast, and they fix anything you want for breakfast the next morning. And they said, well, what would you like? And I said, I don't know. What do you eat? They said, how about a proper Scottish breakfast? Yeah, and boys, eggs and sausage and all that, And then at the end they said, would you like a wee dram? I said, what's a wee dram?
Yeah, whiskey drink. Yeah, small
they're
whiskey drink.
It's a shot of Scotch. It's a proper breakfast, And I thought, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And then when we stopped for lunch, they're like, would you like a wee dram? Well, I guess, And
Yeah, it's kind of like, I kind of like how you do it here. Yeah.
Man, by the time we left 2 weeks out of there, it's being in Scotland, I was like, I like Scotch. I can't wait to go home and drink Scotch.
I'd like a wee dram after every meal.
I actually, one of my supervisors had a bed and breakfast there, and we just happened to drive in front of it, but we didn't stop. I took a picture in front of it, and I got back to country. I was working in Iraq.
Yeah.
And I showed him the picture, and he said, did you have a wee dram with me, old lady? I said, no. And he's like, why not? He wouldn't speak to me for 2 weeks. It's a real cultural thing.
Oh, yeah.
You have a wee dram. Don't pass it up.
Absolutely.
And what's their usage for the word proper over there?
I don't know. What do you mean?
I imagine that you could hear, at least in Ireland, like we'll go out and get a proper dram.
Yeah.
Oh,
Conor
yeah.
McGregor's got that proper 12.
Yeah.
I've noticed a lot of those, Scottish guys.
Scottish, yeah.
They all use that word a lot.
Oh yeah.
And I just wondered, like, what if it's
Well,
like
when they're- well, I
bloody?
mean,
Is that
like
their
when
term
he's-
of bloody? Or
well, no, like
you
we it would be the same as we would say little. They use the
Yes,
term
yeah.
"we" in many different forms.
I've never been across the country.
Yeah.
Been Alaska and Jamaica, never across the country.
I really enjoyed that.
Yeah,
the
you
trip
went.
over- yeah, I loved it. Probably one of the best trips we've ever taken. So
Yeah, traveling international is something neat to do. It sucks when you're overseas working because that's all you do is work.
yeah.
It's a lot of the pipeliners that I know that worked over there. They're like, oh yeah, I was here and I was there, and I was like, what did you see? Well, nothing. We were out
Same
in the
pipes
desert,
we're doing it, yeah.
laying pipes. And
yeah. What is that like, Sandy? When you say you're doing work in like the Middle East at times, you're doing the same work, right?
Yeah, I did not do any pipelining myself overseas. Whenever I was overseas, I was a military contractor, so I worked with KBR and some engineering companies doing logistics and surveillance. A lot of surveillance.
Oh, okay.
And
Surveillance
then
of the lines, or you weren't, or was this
surveillance of bad guys. We would find bad guys and have the military blow them up. So
Okay.
that type of
Yeah.
thing.
Okay.
Keep them out of your way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Watching
Run 'em
the
block.
base. Watching the base.
Yeah, you're running block.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Watching these guys. Hey, man, pests.
So did you serve? You served, and I'm sure.
No, I
You
did
didn't?
not. I was able to get that job, I think, because I used to be an air traffic controller in Houston. So
Okay. At
I
Hobby.
was I was a radar controller, so I didn't work. You say air traffic control, people think you're in a tower.
Yeah.
I was in a bunker more or less that had nothing but radar scopes in it, and we control the traffic when it's 15,000 feet and above coming out of an approach control area such as Houston. It's 15,000 and below. They own that airspace. Then above that, you have low altitude up to 23,000. And then from 23 up to 60 is high altitude, and then above 60 is a classified military airspace. So
yeah.
we would operate the airspace from 15,000 or 10,000, like Beaumont has up to 10,000, Lake Charles up to 10,000.
Okay.
They would hand off planes climbing out of that altitude to us, and we would climb them through up to 23. And before they hit 23, when they're at like 20,000, hand them off to high altitude that would climb them on up into 31, 33, 35, whatever, cruising altitude until they get to their destination, and then you step them back down.
And you bring them down through your airspace.
Yeah.
So that's how that works.
Yes, yeah. I mean, you don't know, of course, when you're sitting in the back, but I mean, there's several handoffs because the tower, as soon as they get them off the ground, the tower hands them off to their radar in the bottom of the tower. So their radar takes them, they're working their space, 30 miles from the airport and 15,000 feet, that's their whole world. And when they're getting out of 10,000 feet, they hand them off to us climbing, and without them stopping, we say climb and maintain flight level 230. So they never stop.
So what does that mean?
Oh, flight level 230 would be 23,000. So it's when you get to 18,000, it starts becoming flight levels because altimeters are set to standard barometric pressure of 299 or 2. That way, everybody's at the same altitude. Because when you're low, you stay with the barometric pressure of where you're at, and you're flying at an altitude relative to what the ground is.
Right.
But when you get up higher, it's an altitude that's just relative to standard barometric pressure. So at 18,000, you're 18,000 all over the world, no matter what the...
You could be flying over a mountain, but you're at 18,000 feet.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that sounds a little confusing, I know, but I mean...
So you can be flying... So how do you determine like that? Let's say you're flying through, the Rockies. How do you determine do they have that? How do they determine mountain height and then all?
It's all been
calculated.
Yes, I mean it's all there. There's charts. It used to be charts, paper charts. Back whenever I was in it,
measured Mount McKinley.
Yeah, I mean somehow they measured it. They knew this a long time ago.
Yeah.
How tall these mountains are and stuff.
Yeah.
So
What's the highest one? 24,000 feet.
I don't know.
I think Mount McKinley.
I don't know.
What kind of training?
I was going to say, where in the hell did you go to preschool?
Yeah.
Well, and getting in something like air traffic control, a lot of people in these days, I think they do college and they take classes for it. But back then, they were in a crunch because Reagan had fired air traffic controllers in the 80s when they went on strike.
Right.
So who went on strike? The airline companies?
No, air traffic controllers, because
union.
that's Federal Aviation Administration.
Yeah.
They're
Okay.
federal workers.
So who was it then? The
Air traffic
employees.
controllers.
air traffic. So the entire air traffic control field of the United States went on strike?
Yes.
In what year?
And it's in the 80s,
Early
83,
80s.
82, somewhere in there.
And it grounded all
So
flights.
that's going to ground
Yeah,
everything.
it just, you can't fly without
No,
it.
no.
I mean, pilots, they think they're God, and then they get in the sky, and guess what? They're not.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
yeah.
there's a little bit of a
They
rift
got
between
to know
us,
where they are.
you know?
Yeah.
Is that a good relationship? I mean,
It is ultimately,
Yeah.
the pilots that I know and that I've flown with, we just like buddies,
Yeah.
We had to take familiarization flights where we would actually sit in the cockpit. And it's wild because below 10,000 is called a sterile cockpit. Nobody talks. It's all business because it's a lot of hands-on. Once they get out of 10,000 feet, there's a lot of automation going on. They pretty well set the autopilot, and then they're talking air traffic control, but they know they're not going to stop. They're going to climb right out. They're going to go to their fixes. They're going to get direct at some point at altitude, and that's it.
Right.
And then until they get to their destination and they get stepped down, and then below 10,000 feet, now you're in approach control, usually 10, 15,000 feet. Everybody shut up. We got business to do. Let's land this plane. But in between, they're sitting there telling jokes, and I mean, most of them are inappropriate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, now that if I've read correctly, air traffic controllers, like, that is an extraordinarily stressful job, correct?
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people can't hack it.
No.
I mean,
No, most people drum out.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
so and the way I got into it was I wasn't happy with the job I was doing at the time. I mean, it just wasn't paying enough, and I had 4 kids, and we were, And I told my dad, I said, because he went to the prayer breakfast every Tuesday. We went to a very big church in our town.
is this in Oklahoma?
In Oklahoma, in Claremore, Oklahoma.
So you grew up where?
Claremore, Oklahoma,
Claremore, Oklahoma.
which is 15 miles northeast of Tulsa.
We got way too many bottles.
Yeah, we do.
But yeah, so I told my dad, I said,
How
what?
far from Tulsa? Sorry.
15 miles.
15 miles from Tulsa. So
Yeah.
you had big city around you.
But yeah, Claremore is the size of Jackson.
Okay.
You know,
All right.
so I mean, we grew up in this environment, and in fact, the school I went to was 6 miles out of town. There wasn't anything around it. It was out in the middle of the country.
Okay. Flat land.
Yeah, just I mean, a little bit of hills, coal mines. There's a lot of
Oh,
strip
okay. Strip mines out
mining.
there.
Oh,
So
yeah.
about like
Yeah.
here.
About like very
yeah.
similar.
Yeah, real similar to this. You know.
Yeah.
So I mean, right across, we grew up on Highway 66, literally on the highway, and on the other side of the highway was train tracks and strip pits, which is where we would go to fish and hunt and
So
play.
you graduate high school, you go to college?
I did for a year and a half, but at the time I was married already and working full time. So, and in fact, my first day out of high school, so my brother-in-law was a big deal in the pipeline, and he said, "If you want a pipeline," he said, "I got a job for you." I said, "Sure," and he said, "You need to be in Liberty, Texas, which is where I live now." He said, "You need to be there the day after you get out of high school." So, I mean, literally the last day of high school, I skipped so I could drive to Liberty when all my friends were partying.
Yeah.
And I got my wife and my child loaded up, and we go down there. And the next day I'm out on the pipeline. It's funny because, I mean, here I'm 17 years old. And they put
What
me
year
on
are we here?
1979.
Okay.
So, I mean, things were cowboy back then.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Out
and-
west, they really were, weren't they?
They
Like,
were. They come pulling up in this crane. It's a 60-ton hydraulic crane with dual tandem axles on the front.
Okay.
And they said, "Hey," they said, "you know how to drive an 18-speed Road Ranger?" I said, "I don't even know what you're talking about."
What is
man."
that? Yeah, hey, what is that? Yeah.
And they're like, "Here's the gear shifter, here's high and low axle, and here's the mid-range and everything, and it's got all these shifters and buttons and levers and stuff." They said, "You got that?" I said, "I don't know. Get in, get the feel of it."
Oh, my.
I go around the yard one time, they got traffic stopped, and they're waving me out on the road. "Come on, man, let's go. We ain't got time for this."
What is that? What is that machine?
It's a 60-ton crane.
Oh, my God.
You go set it up, put the outriggers down, you boom this thing up, and you're
You know,
lifting
like-
pipe,
Yeah, the things. It'd be like similar to something you would see downtown in lifting an air compressor unit.
Oh,
or
yeah,
something
yeah,
up on
yeah,
top
yeah.
of a
Exactly
building.
what it
It'd be
is.
something
Yeah,
like that.
okay. Yeah,
And they'd
okay.
have them big outriggers.
And we would
Oh,
use
my.
it to string pipe and stuff because
Yeah.
at the time we were
And
getting
you had
pipe
never
on
operated
trains.
one in your life.
I wasn't operating it. I was driving it, setting it up,
Okay.
and I would boom it out and warm it up, and I would oil it.
And this is in
grease
Liberty,
it.
Texas.
Liberty, Texas, yeah.
And so back in 1979, because what I've always thought is interesting about out west, just from what I go there with my company, is just it's a different climate to grow up in. I mean, and we're getting ready to take that journey with Sandy on
Yeah.
where all you've been. And it's really cool to see how, like, whenever there's industry around, there's opportunity.
Yes.
And we're experiencing that. It's kind of one of the reasons why I met you, even.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So whenever you go back to Liberty, Texas, what's a job in 1979 driving a 60-ton crane paying?
I was getting probably, I think, and I'm not sure, $500 a week or so, $600 a week.
And that was a living wage back then.
That was a really good way.
Yeah,
back
yeah,
then.
I was
Especially when you're 17 years old and you have zero experience.
Right,
I mean, I had worked summer jobs,
Right.
but I mean, here I am on the pipeline. Immediately.
Where most of the people back in I'm just guessing and I would have to ask my dad. I know he was working at a plant here then in 1979. So I'm comparatively speaking, I would say he was probably, Jeff Matthews even talked about his mom or grandma was a nurse on $19,000 a year. Your average income here, so you're at $30,000 at $500 a week roughly.
Yeah.
You call that 30 grand.
Yeah.
In 79, man, I'd say that's pretty darn good.
Yeah,
It was
79.
good.
You're comparing that to the living wage around here. I would say if you was, I'd say you was living okay, living in a home if you had that on a household.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I went down there and rented a mobile home, which was just something somebody had, for pipeliners,
Yeah.
and was able to support my family
Is this
and
one
buy
you said you
wheels and
bought?
tires. Huh?
Is this the one you said you bought?
No, this
Okay,
was just.
we'll get into that.
But I was able to buy, some Boondocker wheels for my truck. That was big at the time.
yeah,
the old Boondockers, and some nice big tires, and get the truck painted. And 3 months later, we came home. It was about 3 or 4 months later we came home because I had a scholarship at the college in Claremore, Oklahoma, where I grew up, and I didn't want to pass it up. It was
Sure.
a good scholarship based on grades. So we came home.
Oh, so you're smart. Shocker.
Well, I had third in my class, so I did pretty good.
Yeah.
But we came home, and I had enough money. I mean, I had a couple $1,000s, at the end of the summer, so I was able to just go, put the money down, pay the electric and stuff, get turned on, deposit on a duplex, I mean, and my folks were just like, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
He gets out of high school and he's gone.
Yeah.
So that worked out, and then I got a full-time job. And another thing, I left down there because I was torn. I was like, what am I going to do with the pipeline? And we were like, well, you got a scholarship, and there was a stainless steel company back home that had hired me. I put in for it while I was in high school, and while I was down there on the pipeline, they got a hold of me, and they said, hey, you're hired, and we'll hold it for you if you, come back for college. And I was like, okay. So I went back, and I had a nice paying job there, So that worked out well for me.
Yeah.
And then did that for 5 years, and, after that, did a bunch of other things, sold real estate, a lot of different things, and then eventually got into the air traffic control, which was, we were talking about that a while ago. And this is how all federal jobs work. You go down and take a civil service exam. And if you score high enough on it, then they call you in to interview you or whatever, and you take the next step, and they do a background check. And that was this, there was a recruiter for the air traffic control.
So not necessarily like experience-based, more
No.
they're going to take you and program you.
Well, you have to qualify for what level of job you can get on the civil
That's it.
service.
If you want to be a postal
Yeah,
service worker,
yeah.
there's a postal exam,
Sure, yeah.
So there was one for air traffic control, and it was really technical, had a bunch of spatial relation stuffs on it, things you had to figure and see traffic in your head. So a lot of people can't do it.
Right.
And it's all these sections are timed. It's a 4-hour test. And the recruiter, he said, you get that book. He said, you take that test, the practice test. He said, you figure that out, how it works. He said, then go take the exam. And I went over and took the exam and made like a 98.5. And I was like, I feel pretty good about that. I got a hold of the recruiter, and he said, yes, you're in. You're hired, man.
Yeah.
So I did my background check and stuff. It took 18 months for background checks to get a security clearance.
Of that high.
Yeah. Yeah,
Of
because
that, that ain't.
yeah, that's. You're getting a equivalent to a military,
That's not an auditor
secret security
spot.
clearance.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they send you to the FAA Academy, which it doesn't matter where you live in the United States. You can live in Hawaii, Alaska, Washington, wherever. You go to Oklahoma City to the Air Traffic Control Academy, the FAA Academy. And I was lucky because I lived 2 hours from there. So, I went down there and I got me an apartment. And I lived as cheap as I can, trying to support my family. And they're giving you a salary. And if you make it through that, because the first day they got you in an auditorium, they said, there's 264 in you here. Said, look to both sides of you, because at least one of those people, if not both those people, will not make it. They said there's going to be a 60% failure rate. And they were. There was a 60% failure rate. 40% of us made it. And they said, of those 40%, they said, you're going to go to your facilities, and they said there's going to be another 50% wash out there. And sure enough, half of the guys I went to Houston with washed out. They didn't make it because it's intense
That's in
training.
Houston?
Yeah. It's several years of training.
Is it a situation of excuse me, stress? Or like a mental stress, or what?
It's a
if you think
combination.
about it, you got people's lives in your hands there.
I always compared it to a live video game, a real live video game.
Right.
To me,
No do-overs.
Yeah,
no
there is.
do-overs.
Yeah, right.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
No pause buttons.
You screw up, two planes hit each other.
Yeah, and to run planes together would be almost impossible.
Okay.
Almost impossible. Anytime you see it on TV, it's like, that can't happen. You don't get up and go get drink of water. Nobody leaves a position. So you're tied to it. Somebody over your shoulder. A lot of times you've got a helper next to you. To get off of that radar, somebody comes up and they plug in, so you're both listening at the same time as you're talking, and you're telling them what you got going on. Who's climbing, who's turning, what your sequence is.
How far I know it's based on the weather. How far? What's their? Sometimes they have no visibility.
Right. Yeah. And in a radar environment, that's what you're dealing with is just IFR. It's no visible,
Can
flight
you
control.
imagine being a pilot with no, like, we talk about like anxiety and stress.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine being a pilot and sitting 8 hours behind of a windshield that you couldn't see out of?
Yeah.
It's like driving a car blindfolded, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can see.
And you got
nothing.
somebody telling you where to go.
Yeah.
It's like, really? And that takes a lot of trust,
Yes.
So, I mean, that's one of those
Shit.
things that's part of
That stresses me out thinking about it.
that's part of the learning procedure. There is learning how to have the pilot's trust. That was one of those things. I had a really good lesson because I was a nice guy. I mean, I'm still a nice guy.
Yeah, you're a pretty nice fellow. Yeah,
But
Yeah, at what point did you turn into an asshole?
Yeah, I started a few years ago. It's working out pretty good for me.
Yeah. I like this much better. Yeah.
But no, I mean, air traffic control. Another thing about it is it's like rush hour. You don't think about it like that, but think about when planes take off and when they land.
it's one right after another, baby.
You go in the mornings and everybody takes off at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
I mean, everything kicks off. Bam, 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 bam. You go out at 7 o'clock. You got 30 planes lined up on the tarmac, and they all kick off. You go up 8:30, and there ain't nobody there. There's a plane coming to go, and they all land about noon. Everybody changes planes. They all take off. They all land about 3, 4, 5, 6 in the evening.
Yeah.
But that first rush in the morning is a rush because everything's been dormant all night. You've just had FedEx and UPS flying. Nobody else is in the air. I mean, literally, airspace is combined. You got two people running a huge amount of airspace.
Yeah.
As we open up in the morning, we start breaking down airspace. We open up high, divide the low, start splitting that into sectors, and because there's a lot more planes getting ready to hit the air, and all of a sudden, bam, here they come. Approach control sends them, and they just like swarms coming out, and you got to separate them all out and get them on their way, and sort them out.
How many
without
planes would
crashing.
you be doing at once?
On rush hour? You might be doing up to 50 planes at a time. And I mean, and that's when it gets stressful. Then it's for 30 minutes of just sheer terror, and then it calms down, and you got 3 or 4 planes transitioning
Well, like
through.
I always thought, like I had to travel and fly a lot for work where I used to be, and like when you would go into an airport like LaGuardia or LAX, I'd sit there.
Hobby's
and
a
think,
big one, too.
I'm sitting there and think,
Hobby's a big airport.
Bush is bigger.
Is it?
Oh yeah, Bush is way bigger than Hobby.
But I just thought, man, those guys in there running approach or whatever. I mean, it's like, man.
It's broke up into sectors, I mean, there's
yeah.
somebody running this side of the runway and that side of the runway and that side, I mean, and it's very broke up because there's just too much going on otherwise.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
then
you
there's-
fly into Chicago O'Hare, man, there's how many runways at that place?
Yeah. Oh,
I mean, it's crazy.
yeah.
I mean,
Even at Bush, we've got, I think, 5 runways now. We got 3 parallel runways, they're a mile apart.
yeah.
But all running the same way. And I mean, it's nothing to be coming into the airport and see planes on both sides of you landing at the same time or just slightly in front
Yeah, I
and behind
know.
you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I always thought it was cool as a
Wonder how many
passenger.
employees like some place like that has.
like which part?
I'm saying on the grounds.
Oh, God.
Oh, my goodness, man. Because by the time you're dealing like with luggage and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff, I mean, my
Could they?
goodness.
I mean, what do you think on a shift?
God, it's got to be in the thousands at some
Yeah.
of these airports. I mean, the big airports got to be in the thousands. But now, after COVID hit, I mean,
Yeah.
that just devastated these people,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'd say there are a lot of people that, I mean, did they lay off a lot of folks?
Yes,
I mean,
yeah.
yeah,
And
I
right
know.
now, even right now, less than 50% of pilots are flying planes.
Is that right?
Yes, less 50% of people that are pilots are flying planes because mainly of COVID.
So,
you
like,
know?
if
So
you
they're
if you
doing
didn't
other
have
things.
a ton of seniority, I mean, you're probably
That would be my guess, would be the
Yeah.
seniority
Yeah.
thing or nothing,
Yeah.
because I used to think, man, it'd be cool to be a pilot, but
yeah.
now
Well,
it would be
did
so
you
cool.
ever did you ever see there was a movie out called Pushing 10? Mm-hmm. Is that realistic or is that crap?
That's crap.
I kind of figured.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I mean, I've always got that, like, sure, it's intense, but I always figured, like, man, people aren't sitting in air traffic control being a bunch of cowboys like that, man.
No.
I mean,
No,
like, you know.
that's what I was saying earlier about the movies. When you see them running planes together, that's bullshit.
Okay, yeah. It's not, yeah. So it's never that hectic.
No,
like
no.
it's a lot more organized than that.
Well, no, it can be that hectic.
Okay.
It can definitely be that hectic. And I was going to tell you earlier about when I was training. I was still training, and I trained quite a bit, and I have my trainer sitting on a stool plugged in with me, and we're working rush hour on a high altitude sector, and it was rush hour. It was inbound traffic was what I was working, because that was what they were doing at the moment. And I was taking a butt kicking, because normally what you have all these planes that are coming from all these different directions, and you have to sort them out into one line 5 miles apart, dropping into 10,000 feet, or actually handing them off to low in this case. And they have to be 5 miles apart and in a line like that, and you can't break the bubble of 5 miles, or you've had a deal and you're off the boards, and 2 of those and you're fired. So that can never happen.
So I mean, it's got to be that precise.
Yes.
And are they at different altitudes also?
They would be, but like I said, you're dropping them in all to the same altitude, so they're just following each other like this. Okay. But you have them all coming in from different directions, and you start peeling people
and
out.
they can't be more than 5 miles.
They have to be 5 miles apart, and they want them 5 miles apart. You know, you don't want, if you got 10 miles apart, you got too much space.
Yeah, you've backed them up.
You know, you got too many planes. You need to get them 5 miles apart. That's your limit. So we would run them 6. Try to keep them at 6, because that way you got a little bit of a buffer.
A little bit of wiggle room there.
But you know, and so typically the way it works is, as they're coming in, you tell them turn 30 degrees left, vector for traffic, on course in 10 minutes, descend and maintain. You know, turn 30 degrees left, turn 30 degrees left, turn 30. Everybody coming in, turn 30 degrees left. 30. You start fanning
You're doing them
out.
like geese.
Yeah, you fan them out, and then as you get the space you want, then you can peel them
bring 'em
off
back.
from this direction, that direction. You can bring them into the string. You know, you got them going like this. It's like, I just need you now. I need you now.
One
I
from
need
this
you
side,
now.
one from that side.
Yeah,
One from,
and if you got some more over here than you have here, you take this one, this one, this one. But I wait till I've got the timing to get that 5 mile string. Well, I was working a lot of traffic. And I was peeling them off, and it was what we normally do is we would give them an instruction, turn and descend and blah, 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 and they do a read back. That's how it works. The pilots read it back. Roger, 30 degrees left, descend and maintain, flight level, blah, 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 expect on course in 10 minutes. Yeah, okay. I know this guy knows what I'm saying now.
Yeah.
We've got good
communication.
When you get busy, you tell them to do ident, which is just, there's a certain button they can push, and their target turns, it like X's out. It shows a special signal that shows that they understand and acknowledge what you're saying.
Because you need the radio.
I'm too busy. So I told them, I had a bunch of people coming in, and I said, listen, guys, it's way too busy. Acknowledge with ident. Don't read back. And I'm turning them out. Turn 30 degrees left. Turn 30 degrees left. Turn 30 degrees left. And I tell this guy, turn 30 degrees left. Vector for traffic. Descend and maintain. Expect on course. Well, Senator, we've had a long flight. This is an international flight. We were kind of hoping to get direct. We've been in the air 12 hours, blah, blah, blah. And this was after my instructor had told me, he said, you're too nice. He said, next time we plug in, he said, try this. He said, plug in, asshole. Unplug, nice guy. Plug in, asshole.
Yeah.
We just had this talk.
Yeah.
So this guy, blah, blah, blah. Oh, well, Senator, da, 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 da. We just had this talk. And I told this guy, I said, turn 90 degrees left. You're the last one in the pack. I need nobody to talk. I need an ident only, and I need y'all to acknowledge this. And everybody idented. And it was like, after that, everybody was just expediting turns, and it went smooth as silk. Bam, 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 bam. Nobody said anything back.
There's how many out there at this time?
There was a good 35, 40 planes on the
and
channel,
when
and they were coming in every 30 seconds.
Well, and
another
when you
one
have
was
that
coming
much
on
radio traffic on that channel,
you
and
don't
then
have
you got a guy wanting to talk about, hey, man, we've had a long flight.
Yeah,
or
blah,
whatever.
blah, blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah.
yeah,
It is
it's
Southern
like-
talking, slow talking. It's like, I'm with you, dude.
wait a minute, man. Yeah, hold on. Yeah.
But yeah, and that was when I learned the power of asshole.
Yeah. Plug in, asshole. Unplug, hell of a nice guy.
Yeah.
Why don't they break it down and space it out and maybe not take some stress off of you there?
Well, I mean, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
It's a heck of a saying.
And you've got to be built for that. And
that's-
and obviously there's a lot of people that are not.
That's exactly right.
And you might not know that till you're in there and get pressure tested.
Yeah, and
right?
I mean it's always doable. It's always doable. You might have to delay somebody. You might have to put a couple planes in holding. You know, I mean, that's the last thing you want to do. And usually
You're having a meeting about that.
do what now?
If you put a plane on hold, you're having a meeting about that.
No.
No, I'm not saying at that time, but I'm saying like in your review with your boss, are they going to question that or anything?
No.
What if you? Well, yeah.
We would put them in holding. Typically, the only time you get a holding pattern is when there's weather delays, because then everything goes out the window. When there's weather, forget about it. You're not controlling traffic.
So who's controlling?
Well, you're
putting them in a
trying to
holding
keep
pattern.
everybody separated.
So who's controlling the weather for you? They're not controlling the weather, but who's diagnosing the weather?
Well, we've got radar displayed.
So you're reading that.
Yeah, because part of our training in the academy is meteorology.
Yeah.
So
So we
Jesus.
understand exactly what we got going
Well,
on.
and isn't the way that it works like, hey, man, if a controller calls a hold or something like that, like that's not something that's questioned.
No,
Like
you can't.
Your
It's just like
managers
I
and
was
stuff.
telling
Yeah,
you.
I mean, it's like, hey, man, we're gonna put him in a holding pattern. Like the pilots know, your management knows, everybody knows. Okay, man, they're calling a hold now. It's
Yeah,
weather
and if
or
when you got weather and you get a rush hour and you've got weather and say there's a ground stop so you can't land anybody, you're putting all these planes in hold, and then you're handing them off to low altitude so they can put them in hold in their space, because you're running out of space to put them in hold.
Yeah.
And then that's when you get an extra set of eyes, is what we would call it, you know. And somebody would come and they would plug in with you on the radar beside your normal helper, just to, and they wouldn't talk because one person's talking, but they would be watching with you so they could say, you know, this or that, you know, try to help out, because if you got 50, 60 planes in hold, it's a nightmare scenario, you know.
Well, and then
you're waiting to get people in, and you know some of these flights are long. I used to fly Dubai to Houston. It was 16 hours.
Oh yeah.
By the
And
time
then
got
you get in
that
a holding
far-
pattern.
Yes,
And does fuel become an issue?
yes, and that's the other thing.
I mean, how do you factor that in?
Well,
You'll give them the more direct.
if they get low on fuel, they have to go to an alternate airport.
You
So
just- you send them.
they know that. Now that's on the pilots. They know what their fuel level is. They know when they've got to call it.
Yeah.
You know,
Will they
they've
tell
got to go
you-
bingo and get out, and they'll
So
tell
the-
you we low. We got to go. And then, so we'll give them, because they know what their alternates are. You know, we all know
Right,
what their
right.
alternates is based on runway length, because a big jet can't land on a runway shorter than 2 miles.
Right.
So, you know, if they can't go to Intercontinental, they got to go to Hobby, or vice versa. If both of them are locked in, now you've got to go to, say, you know, Lake Charles or Dallas or
Yeah,
something,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
based on the weather. So, and they know, you know,
And I'm sure
what
they
their
don't
fuel
wanna do
is,
that.
and they know
Yeah,
where the
yeah.
weather is. So if there's weather in Houston and Dallas, then don't be counting on Dallas for your backup, because it's probably not going to work. You know, you're probably going to go back.
And
so
you're
it's
corresponding
on the-
all this.
But it's on the pilot to calculate that
fuel.
calculation,
Yes,
right?
because
with the
we
fuel.
don't have any clue what their fuel is.
Yeah,
we don't
so,
know.
And they got to be looking at weather patterns and like, okay, they got to know where they're going to divert.
Before they take off.
They
You
know
before
okay.
they take off, they have already looked at this to see what's our impact going to be. When we get there, are we looking at a front coming in when we get there? We need a little more fuel, just in
Okay.
case, you know, because they know.
So they just don't fill her up and
No, that's they got that fuel calculated to the pound, because every pound of fuel that they
Matters.
put on,
Yeah.
makes a difference on getting how much they're going to use taken off because of pushing all that weight, you know. And then when they land, they have to be pretty well empty, because if they land heavy, the tires won't take it and all that. So say they take off and they have a problem. You've heard of fuel dumps before. They have to dump that fuel because they've got, 100,000 pounds of fuel. The plane can't land with that kind of weight.
Right.
So they got to dump fuel. So
I
normally,
may never fly again.
Well, I think it's really cool, man.
I do too.
To think
It's-
what a
I didn't know
science
it.
they got
It's very
down.
I didn't know
fascinating,
any of this.
Yeah.
I just figured they just topped them off and
yeah, just go. Okay, you're full, buddy.
yeah, you're good. Yeah, get the glass too, would you? Hit the front glass. I didn't realize this was down to a science.
Oh yeah. How many passengers and then how much luggage weight? All of that's figured. There's an average for passengers, and there's an average for if you got this many passengers. There's usually this much luggage, and each person usually has
Well,
this
and
much.
then like what percentage of the fuel is used on takeoff? Like that always amazed me.
And I don't know, but that's a large amount.
yeah,
That's a
because they're
huge
having to
amount.
throw a lot of thrust to get all the weight up the first time.
Yeah, they're at 100% throttle.
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
when they come off the ground, they're like this. So
Yeah.
that's why they want to get up as fast as possible and level off. Because
Think of whoever's in charge of the weights and measures of that fuel pump.
yeah, That's
a lot of
that's a big deal,
engineering
too.
work there, buddy.
No
Yeah,
pressure.
That's
You know, you think about it. When I'm in the plane, because I fly quite a bit, and
Oh, yeah.
I'm watching all this go on out the windows, and I'm thinking of those things right there.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, you know, these guys need to be pretty qualified. And are you putting the right amount of fuel in this plane, buddy? Because
Man.
we had you deal with airlines from other countries, and at the time, so I was air traffic controller from '91 to 2001 in Houston.
From 91 until 2001.
Yeah, so that was
And this is for the federal government.
yes, yeah.
If you don't
air
mind me
traffic
asking,
control.
so what's a job like that paying? I'm not trying to get personal. I've
I
never
was
heard of these
making
things.
$100,000 a year when I got out, but I had started a web hosting business, and I was so smart I thought I was going to make $1 million a year.
You were a web host, like an internet.
Yeah, internet web host, and I had figured out how to set it up to where I had a server in Maryland that was on a T3 backbone at a server farm, and I could get people to come in and buy web hosting, just like GoDaddy or
Yeah.
something
Yeah,
like that,
yeah.
you know. And I was at the front of it. I mean, because in the late '90s, I was writing code for the web page. I built the first web page for the Houston Air Traffic Control Center.
okay.
And so
You did all this on a year and a half of college.
yeah.
No degree.
No.
No specialized classes. You're
No,
building.
just
You're
OJT, baby. On the
and
yeah,
so
and-
you learn how to build what do they call that? What do they call that whenever you
the coding, HTML,
coding,
yeah,
HTML. You know how to-
HTML was
you learned how to do that.
I just bought books and just went through them, just plowed through them. You know, learned how
Did
to
you not have any other hobbies? I mean, how are
well
you?
fishing and stuff like that. And
You must be like a freak when it comes to consuming information.
I used to be, yeah. I used to be. I mean, and even now I do quite a bit. I just can't retain it like I used to, you know.
Yeah.
I'm an old man now.
This is amazing. I mean, I'm not trying to speak for all of Southern Ohio, but these opportunities and things that you're doing, we don't see down here very often.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
I've always thought it was interesting how people end up where they do. So you take this, so you score a 98 on this civil service exam in 1972 or in 1981 to 82.
No, that was actually in 1990.
That was in 1990.
Yeah.
Okay. So you went to college and you come back and you were working for that
Stainless tubing
stainless
manufacturer.
steel. So you worked there. So then that puts you about a little bit younger than us now, about Tyler's age. So you're running what, 30 years old at this time?
No, I was so when I left the tubing place, I was 25-ish,
Okay.
and I got into real estate.
Yep.
Did Century 21. I was
Okay. Yeah.
was a realtor for a couple of years
For a
and then-
franchise.
Yeah, and then again, I had a family, and I didn't have enough money to have a Cadillac, and that makes the difference.
Yeah.
I was a great salesman, but I had a pickup, so it was hard for me to play the part. You know.
Yeah.
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 And so I got out of that, and I started working as a custodian and a maintenance guy for our church because we had a school there. And I had a second job where I worked at a woodcraft place where I would be, just one of the woodcrafters.
Okay.
And I mean, I was working two jobs, and I was working my butt off, and that's when I got on as air traffic controller because I said, "Man, this ain't working out."
So that journey then, so by the time you apply, you're 18 months, or by the time you take the test, you're 18 months going through the background because of the intense.
Yeah,
I mean, they got to do a background. That ain't just hey, piss in a cup.
yeah, exactly.
That's full blown background. They probably interviewed your family. They probably interviewed your friends.
You had to put down neighbors and
Yeah.
relatives and stuff so that they can go check them because of
probably went to your high school.
They probably did. I never knew
Yeah.
how many of the contacts, and
Yeah.
you can't get in air traffic control if you're 30 or above. So I had slid in at 29 when I got through the civil service exam, and then got into the process. I was 29. So by the time I went to the academy, I was 30. I was the oldest one there, because everybody else is in their 20s. You know?
What turned you on to saying, "Hey, man, this air traffic controller thing could be pretty good"?
When I saw the salary in the book, in that civil service book, and it showed salary amounts, and I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
I said, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
So
But
you
like-
had to pick the test then that you wanted to go take.
No, it's one test.
One test, and if you get to a certain level, then they put you each. So you're saying each division like air traffic control, postman, whatever?
No. This was just for air traffic control. That's the test was to see if you could be an air traffic controller.
Oh, okay. I
That's
thought if
it.
you took a civil service test and you whatever.
No,
you
there's
scored-
different. There's 100 different civil service tests based on what you want to
Can
do.
you take all
specifically.
100 if you want to?
I guess you could. I mean, if you wanted to be a postman and you could go take that one, see if you're qualified for
Yeah,
it.
you
It's
just
going
gotta
to see how
qualify.
you can
Yeah.
sort mail.
So, well, that's I don't think anybody realizes or really ever thinks of that.
It's very similar to how municipal government hires as well with a civil service exam.
Oh, really?
Yes.
You worked for municipal government, didn't you?
That's how we would hire. Yeah.
Same type of thing. You got
Well,
an
that's a
aptitude
Civil
test,
service
basically.
exam. Yeah.
I guess I just never thought of stuff like that.
Yeah.
Did
Oh,
you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I knew about it. I knew that's the way federal jobs worked. I mean, I've heard of people.
Where did you
taking-
learn that? Here.
I mean, I don't know. That's something I
Applying
just
for
knew.
federal jobs.
Yeah. Well, I never applied for one, man. I've never taken the civil service exam.
What an
but-
outlet that could be.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know, you
it's
get
a
a
great-
you
it's
get
a
a bright
great,
kid that doesn't want to go to college or doesn't have the means or something, but you see them all the time, and you're
And
like,
do they don't know those options exist?
yeah, they
you
don't know those options exist.
I mean, I never knew it until, like I said, I told my dad. I
you'd
said,
have done that at 18.
yeah.
So
I would have.
was
I
you-
would've
was
done it a lot
You
younger.
was 12 years finding it. Or
Yeah, no kidding.
11 years.
Was
finding
your
it.
dad the one that said, "Hey, like you ought to look into taking
Well,
the civil
he
service
was
exam"?
having the prayer breakfast every Tuesday at this
Yeah.
big church, so there was 30 or 40 older guys.
Yeah.
I said, hey, it's not what I know, it's who you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I
Yeah,
was smart
like,
enough
hey,
to know
Dad,
that.
come
by
on,
that
man.
age.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not what I know. I can be smart as heck, but
Yeah,
that ain't
yeah.
getting me nowhere. you know?
Right.
Honestly, that's true.
That's true.
Yeah.
And I said, could you find out from these guys what's going on? And I mean, the next day after the prayer breakfast, he said, yeah. He said, there's a recruiter for the FAA. He said, they're hiring. I said, really? What's that entail? And he said, he said, go get this book. He said, there's a little civil service book, tells you about the job, and read through it and see what you think. And I was reading through it, and I was like, yeah. And then I seen that salary, and I got a hold of my dad. I said, I'm kind of interested in this. What do I got to do?
Yeah.
And then he said, well, talk to the recruiter. And the recruiter said, there's a practice exam in there. He said, take that thing. He said, go through it about 3 times. When you feel like you've got that down, he said, go take that test. And he said, let me give you a trick. He said, when you take that exam, he said, if you get stumped up on a problem, he said, you skip that one and go to the next one because it's all timed. He said, because you can get stumped on one and skip it and answer the rest and come back and maybe not get that one right. But instead of sitting on that one and missing 10 in that
Right.
section.
Because you didn't get a finish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was my strategy. I was able to answer 100% of the questions. I got a few wrong. It was a 4-hour test. I mean,
Yeah.
it was very complex. If I was to take it now, there's no way I could pass that test. It's so hard.
Yeah. Would you say that you trained though pretty intensely for that?
Yeah. Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
you studied
I
and-
put
and
into
really
it.
got after it.
I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it was like that was my goal. I
Right,
mean, I
right.
focused on that, and I spent all day working on that, and
Yeah.
I mean, at the time, when I was young, I didn't drink or anything, so
Sure,
that was
sure.
It wasn't. I didn't have that problem.
Yeah.
which
Yeah. Absolutely.
Some of my friends had that issue.
Well,
you know.
and you were kind of at the right age to apply yourself to something like that too.
Yeah.
Because you were old enough to know that, hey man, this is serious. Mm-hmm. You're married, you got kids, you got like, hey man, I don't have time to mess around with this.
Yeah, I'd been working, and at that time, I mean, here I am, 30 years old. I've got 4 kids, and it's just busting my chops trying to feed everybody and keep a roof over our head.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
It was tough,
And
I had to get something going.
Yeah.
And since I couldn't afford to get any more college, I didn't have the time or money.
Right.
Because I wasn't one of those lucky few that have,
Well, it just didn't work out.
Yeah, I mean, there's people
Wasn't
that
gonna work out for you. You couldn't make that work.
if I hadn't have, knocked up my wife when I was 14, it might have been a little bit better. But I mean,
Yeah. Well, hey, but
Did you really? You had a kid at 14?
the kid was born when I was 15. But if you do the math, we probably
Yeah,
it was 14 whenever.
Wow.
So the week I turned 16 is a week I got married, and I'm
Really?
still married to her today, 43 years. Yeah.
yeah.
Congratulations.
Man, that's awesome.
Thanks, man.
That's awesome.
Wow.
That worked out.
You may be the most interesting person I've ever met, Sandy.
I told you earlier, if you saw my resume and you heard this story, you'd say, again, bullshit card. I'm throwing it.
No, that is. I mean, you talk about the obstacles there. You're not even calling them
shit.
obstacles, but the obstacles you overcame as a very young man are impressive.
Yeah,
I mean,
to look back,
Yeah.
I mean,
You
at
were
the
making
time-
40-year-old decisions, like true decisions, by age 25.
Yeah.
But there
Yeah.
again, you'd kind of been there already for 10, 15
yeah,
years.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
You
you
know,
had to grow up fast.
You had to
dude.
grow up real
Yeah.
quick,
yeah,
didn't you?
exactly.
Yeah.
There was no, oh, hey, all
yeah,
this
yeah.
flighty, think about it stuff. No.
Yeah.
We got stuff to do. We got to go.
Well, and
know?
you were kind of at a point too there, like when you were 30. You talk about going back to college or something like that. Man, you didn't have time.
Yeah,
No.
it wasn't gonna work out.
I mean,
No, there was no
put
way.
money aside. I mean, you don't have time to do that
No,
with four
no.
kids.
Uh-uh.
And
That
stuff,
was-
Yeah,
That was, and coming out of high school, it was make or break.
yeah.
It's like, I can't live at home.
No.
I got to have a job. And I'd put in at the stainless place,
Yeah.
already. And I
Yeah.
knew I had this college scholarship lined up.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, it's like, I got to do something. And that's when I talked to my brother-in-law again, who I knew.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, have you got anything going on? He said, well, yeah. He said, if you want to get on the pipeline, come on down. He said, we'll put you to work,
Yep.
So
Boom.
I didn't say, let me think about it.
No.
And that's so many people these days,
You know how many people I hired last week?
How many?
3. You know how many of them showed up? Had one show up one day, and then another one showed up when they were supposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Autumn, I'm Autumn, like the season. I said, I'm Sandy, like the beach.
That's great.
I mean, I couldn't help it.
that was
quick. While we're doing introductions.
yeah. Since you've given me something to remember you by, I'll return the favor. Yeah.
But they do. I mean, had one of them just didn't even come. I told them when to be there. They just didn't show up.
I know.
The other one was supposed to be there 2 days, and I mean, I'm like,
What's with these people?
man. I mean, I am not casting stones at anybody. I'm really not. But I cannot figure this out. I mean, and this happens like every time I get ready to hire somebody. I know that I got to hire 2 or 3 of them to find one that's just going to be there when they're supposed to.
That's
Isn't
ridiculous.
that something else?
That is ridiculous.
I'm serious,
You know?
man. It's the damnedest thing I've ever seen.
How can that be when people need jobs so bad?
I know,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm like, man, I know, I'm sure it's not your ideal situation. I get it, but I mean, man, I was just under the gun. I just thought that you had to go out and work.
Yeah.
I mean, there was none of this time off, like there. And I'm not saying I had it hard. My God, I was very
Are
fortunate.
you saying you don't include a lot of vacation days in your job description?
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think that you're looking at it and you're like, okay, man, I need a job
I had to
because
go to work.
I have no money. I need
I know
money.
you did. I know you did.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know you
yeah,
did.
yeah.
I mean,
I need money.
but there was none of
I
this.
gotta-
I'm just kind of trying to see what I want to
think
do.
I'm going to
Find
find
myself.
myself.
Yeah,
a
you
little
know,
bit.
you
Yeah,
find
yeah.
yourself in shitty situations.
Well, I was going to say, I'll tell you where you're going to find yourself. Like that sort of behavior, you don't have to go wondering about where you're going. I'll let you know. Dude. I know where you're going to find yourself.
Yeah,
you
in a
know?
shit box.
Yeah.
Got
You're
a
going.
good idea.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
kind
gonna
of a
be-
psychic in those things.
Yeah, you're going to be asking somebody for money somewhere, man. You might as well go out and earn it. I
Yeah,
mean,
no, that's wild, and this is
It's hard enough to get by earning your money.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
what I mean, it's always mystified me, man, when people are casual about like I would think like if you don't have a job, all right, you need a job.
You need a job.
I mean,
Yeah.
like how can you kind of just stroll around like, well, hey, man, I mean, I don't have a job.
If you don't have a job, your job 40 hours a week is to find a job.
Well, that's
Yeah,
I mean, because what else are you going to do, man?
And I'm
I
not
mean-
going to hate on anybody. If your situation allows for it, there's people taking care of loved ones. There's people
Sure,
that right
sure,
now
yeah, I get it.
and kind of
I'm not talking about anybody else. I'm just saying, like, personally, my stress levels would not tolerate me not having a job.
I'm just trying to be open minded about this situation.
yeah.
But I mean, hey, man, in today's world. That Sandy Hendrix, that's I mean, they don't have a lot of options.
no.
I mean, how easy would that have been now? Like if you lived in your hometown, is that steel mill still there?
No,
Or steel factory, stainless steel factory?
no,
not there?
it's the factory is there, but now they make heat exchangers.
So there's still that. Is there
Really
more
similar.
jobs or
There's more jobs in
more
that
jobs
town
now?
than there used to
Okay.
be. Yeah.
What about first year you went to the pipeline?
Liberty.
In '79.
Yeah. Is it still there? That pipeline? They still working? I'm sure.
Well, that was no. You put in that pipeline and it's
And
done.
it was done. So that was
6
short-term
months
deal
later.
anyway.
Yeah, that's another reason why I left because You know, and I mean, I understand there's the pipelines, they go job to job to job to job, you know, and since my brother-in-law was a big shot,
Yeah.
you know, I could have just stayed on, and by now I'd own a company probably if I'd have stayed with pipeline.
Right.
But just the direction things were going, I was going a different direction. You know what I mean? I was like at the end of the year.
And that job was starting to end, and it was like.
It was halfway through. We had a
Yeah.
hurricane come through. The job got shut down, and I had a scholarship and a job waiting on me back home. And I said, you know what? Let's go this direction here.
Right, absolutely.
You know, because I have a job.
Yeah. Now, do you think that there are less options now? Is that what you're getting at?
I
There
think
is.
that's what I'm getting at.
I think so.
Is you know, I mean, you know, I'm not gonna be too hard. Like I like to judge. And I hired 3 people last week, and what I like to do is I like to say, okay, do I think you're going to be a good fit? You know, number one, I think, you know, do I think that your personality and your work ethic is going to jive with everybody else's?
Right.
And it can go either way. You can be too much, you can be not enough. You know,
Sure.
Is this a good fit? And then it's kind of, I mean, I kind of leave it up to if I can trust them, and I think that I've got a good feeling about it. I'm looking at experience for certain things. But I mean, you know, that's handy. I've noticed that you just have to do that. But for the most, I mean, in the jobs that are
the jobs you're
today,
offering are more or less they're entry level
jobs,
positions, man.
yeah.
You know.
And you know, I think that there's, you know, I just don't think that there's a lot of like big like living wage jobs like there used to be, especially here.
There's not.
And I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer. I'm just calling it for what it is. I mean, whenever I got out of high school, man, you had like 8 or 9 plants around here that all paid a living wage, and now I think we got 3 or 4 maybe. I mean, they're at least in half, if not.
Wow.
You know, they've cut out
And,
all of them.
and you know, and I wonder if that's part of that's geography. And
I don't know. I you
don't
know,
know.
that's a.
you know, I mean, because you go down
But
to
then, you like I go out west, and I mean it looks booming.
you go to Houston area, and I mean
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons we haven't left that area is because
It's booming.
there's
Oh yeah, the
something
economy.
going on.
The economy
There's
there
a
is
lot.
unbelievable. Dude.
Yeah, I mean,
man,
I
we-
can get a job in so many places so fast, you know. And
And we'll go back to that, but I mean, and see, that's what I don't see here. Mm-hmm. And you've been here long enough; you probably know what I'm saying. I'm not
Oh, yeah.
downgrading that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that this is we just don't have it like those. Like you hear about these booms, but then when you go out there and see like the boom that these places are going through. I mean, they're just getting massive. I
Yeah.
mean, from Houston to Galveston, you truly never leave the country. Like you're kind of in a city that whole time, and
You
it's
are.
about 50 miles.
Yeah.
And it's grown up where I mean, it's just exits in cities.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, there's a few areas in the States right now that are really doing, like Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah,
it's another boom.
I mean, no,
Booming.
it's not so much with pipeline and oil and stuff like that, but like, man, there's just a lot of companies that are all of a sudden headquartering in
and a lot of that's the
Houston and
cost of
Nashville.
living
It
and
is,
the
yeah.
working wage they can pay people.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because
Oh,
they're
that makes a
moving
big
from
difference.
California or they're moving from
Yes.
you know these other areas that
Yeah.
are unionized, and that was
Yeah.
one of the reasons this stainless steel company I went to work for in Claremore it existed. It was part of Allegheny Ludlam. So they were paying their union people up here a lot of money to make stainless tubes, and they looked at Claremore and they said, you know what? We got these country bumpkins down there. We can pay them next to nothing. So they went
Yeah.
down there and opened this plant, and they were paying us what they thought was dirt for wages. For us, it
You guys thought it was
good
great.
money.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was living pretty good.
Well,
I mean, I bought me a
and
house
you know what? It all comes down to what does it cost to live there, man.
Yeah.
Yes, cost of living.
that we've got under control here. The
Yeah.
cost of living here is not bad.
No, it's not.
It's
you
not.
know, I've looked at the prices of houses because I from selling real estate, it's always been a hobby of mine.
Yeah, when you're in a town, you're kind of
Yes.
checking it out.
Well, I've got it on my phone, you know, so I
Yeah,
get
yeah.
listings, you know, and I'm looking at Realtor.com every single day, you know,
Yeah.
and it's that fascinating to me here.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at these houses downtown, you know, built in 1850, built in 1870, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
These things were built before the city I live in existed. you
Yeah.
know?
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, back then, you know, when did Texas and all that, or Oklahoma get settled and all that? When was
Well, the land run in Oklahoma was 1907. You know, there was already people there.
Oh,
but they
hell,
didn't-
we had a courthouse and everything. by
yeah,
then. I mean,
yeah, it was way established here, you know, and I mean, we're lining
people
up at the
underestimate
border,
that.
you
Yeah,
know?
well, and they're lining up racing for land.
That's
out there,
it,
man.
yeah.
Boomer
dropping their
sooner.
flag.
That's
Yeah,
how we
yeah.
come up with
Boomer
that.
sooner.
that was
yeah.
in 1907. So
Yes.
my great grandpa, who I knew, would have been able to see that. Your great grandparents, all of us.
To think, At the time, you
How
could
did your parents-
race down there and get a section of land. That
Yeah,
is
for
1
free,
square
dude.
mile.
One
And that's how they
square
had
mile.
it. 640
And it was a
acres.
race. Like they all,
Yeah.
like we're at the line. That's how the Oklahoma Sooners got their nickname. They would call them the Sooners, the Boomer Sooner.
Because people that jumped the gun before they
They'd shoot 'em.
before they started,
Yeah.
there was people that snuck in
So they
and
line
already
these
staked
some
out their
bitches up and
claims.
just go on a foot race or what?
It
well,
was
they
a
were on
horse race.
horseback and
And-
I mean
and
carriages.
buggies and-
yeah.
Would they have days of this? So they would just say,
I don't think so. I think
It
it
was
was
like
like
one
a
day.
cannon fire,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it was like
Go.
They lined up at the north border, and,
and what did they
everybody
give you?
went.
They gave
There
you
was
one
a
square
stake.
mile.
Yeah.
Well, you
Or an acre or
yeah,
something.
there was sections were staked out, and you would pull the flag basically
And put
then
your
go to the
flag
courthouse
down, and it was
You know,
yours.
claim
Yeah.
it. This
Yeah.
one's mine. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
can you believe that?
Yeah, yeah.
Jesus.
God, it'd be cool.
I mean, people came from all over the world.
And most
To
like,
come
like
do
he
that.
said, I mean, in the
Yeah.
insurance business, I have to look at what year the house was built. And I mean, now our auditor site basically goes back to about 1900. If it was before that, it'll still just say 1900. It
Oh,
won't say
yeah.
like 1850 or something. But some of them were, especially the ones right down the street here. I mean, they're all.
Well, we're probably
Yeah.
sitting in a building right now.
this
that was,
building, this
I
building
mean,
was probably built in 1890 to 1905.
Yeah, it's
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
I mean,
And
yeah.
so here we are. We've got towns, municipalities, sheriffs, and the whole bit, and it's
And
damn
it's the
near
Wild West
It's
down
damn
there.
near it's
literally.
Would there still be? There wouldn't have been Indians running in, but you're only about 30 years
No,
past.
no. There was Indians down there. I mean, because we got reservations at the
Yeah.
wazoo, you know. And
Yeah.
I'm part Cherokee. I've got my
Okay.
Cherokee card, so you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a lot of my friends, most of my friends are part Indian, Osage or Cherokee or different tribes.
Okay.
And it's funny because people even into the 1950s. One of my teachers said that he had some relatives that would not come and visit him in that time period because they didn't want to get shot with bows and arrows. You know? They were watching westerns on TV.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, it's
so
like,
they were
wait, man, that's still the wild frontier out
isn't
there.
that
dude.
Indian
Yeah,
territory?
Yeah,
Well, yes, it used to be.
yeah.
Well, don't you still have Indians? Yes, they're on reservations. Oh, we ain't going down there.
Don't trust them, man. Yeah.
No. I don't know. They get kind of wild. We see them leaving the reservation on TV shows.
See that torch? I cannot keep this sumbitch lit.
Man, I did something I normally don't do here, and I lit up an acid.
Really? What flavor?
Well, that's kind of
Funky?
odd, man. It's the blue one. Yeah,
That's-
I've
they're all
never,
funky to me.
I've never really had one I liked. But I was going to say this one isn't too bad. I mean, it's not as good as the one that just went out. But
And
I mean,
so I see you guys clipping yours. Have you ever punched one?
oh yeah, I've got a punch.
Okay.
I went through a big punch phase, man. I like
Did
a
you?
punch.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like a punch. And then, but these V cutters, I've got into this V cutter.
Yeah, I like the
big.
V-cut.
Yeah,
I started with that,
Yeah.
originally, and then I moved to this. And this one, you see how it's shaped?
Yeah.
Lots of airport security problems right
Yeah.
here.
You know what?
Every
I
time
never thought
Yeah.
about that. Yeah,
Yes.
I bet.
I
How
have
many times
been-
have you had to open that up?
They don't even want you to touch it. They don't even want you
Yeah.
to touch it. Whenever they find it, because they'll run it through, and then they run it through, and then they pull it to the side, and then they pull you over, and then they pull this out, and they're looking at it, and I'm telling them, it's a punch. It unscrews, and they're like, and they call other people over to look at it, and I'm like, it's a keychain, for Christ's sake.
Yeah,
Look,
yeah,
Push
yeah.
the bottom. They don't want to push the bottom. Is that going to
Yeah.
make it detonate or what?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
They're just scared to death, ain't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've started carrying it openly. I clip it on the outside of the bag so they don't have to dig through the bag. It's like one time so when I worked in Iraq, at the very beginning in 2006, my first flight in there with KBR, it was Christmas Day, 2006. And they fly you to Dubai, and then they put you on a charter flight. And all the contractors are on one charter flight. There's no military. We're contractors that
Right.
are civilian that work with the military, embedded. So they fly you from Dubai to Baghdad International. We land, and I mean, when you come in, you just come in like this, just whoosh. It's like, are we going to go nose diving into the concrete, or are we going to actually land? And then we land, and there's not another airplane anywhere in sight. And you're looking at this desolate place, no cars, nothing. We park way out here on the tarmac. They bring these ladders. They come pushing up to the doors, and they pull some buses up with these bulletproof curtains in them, and they hustle us out to these buses, and then they take us over to the terminal. We go in this terminal, and there's just enough lighting for this one little area, and there's like 2 Iraqis in this little area, and they're stamping your passport as you come through, and giving you this look. And you go in the airport, and there's wind and broken windows. It's like some old movie, and there's people nervously standing at doorways with machine guns, and I'm like, what did I get into?
Welcome to
What the
Iraq, yeah.
heck, man. And then, so as you progress through the war, and things started normalizing, by 2008, 2009, we were really starting to get normalized, and the airport was starting to come together, and there was vendors
Getting
and
rebuilt,
stuff. And by like 2009, 2010, Iraqis were starting to fly again, and there was actually air traffic,
Yeah.
And then they turned it over, I think it was 2010, they turned the security over to Iraqis, and they had like these Australians, third party, that were backing them up. And so I go to Thailand, I'm over there for a couple of weeks. I come back. Well, I've got me one of these little knives. I paid $6 for this stiletto knife. You hit the button, the blade,
Yeah.
you pull the button,
Typical
And I'm
made
like-
in Thailand merchandise.
It's like $6. I got it in my backpack, and I put it on the conveyor, and I go in and they run this thing, and I'm standing there and I'm watching them run my thing, and then they call another one over, and then another, and there's like 3 Iraqis, and there's a woman, and they're looking at this video, and they're looking at me, and then they bring my bag out. She starts digging through my bag, and I'm like, what are they doing? I'm not even thinking about this knife, And finally she pulls that knife out, and she's got the burqa on and stuff, and she hits the button, and that knife pokes up, and it's right in front of her face, and she goes, oh. I thought, oh crap, and then security moves in on this side of her, and another security on this side of her, and I thought, I am going to jail, man.
Yeah, over this.
She goes click, and the knife goes in. She's like, and they take it and they put it in a bowl and they send it through, and like 5 of them are huddled up looking at their radar or their scope over there, their X-ray, as they're checking out this knife, and then they send it out, and now there's people standing on either side of me, security, and I was like, I am doomed.
Yeah.
And they take the knife and they put it in my backpack and they say, have a good day, sir. And I was like, okie doke then. And I was like, and I think of that every time I get pulled over,
I'll bet.
at
I'll
the
bet.
X-ray.
Well, what, like when you were working there in the Middle East doing that, like what was the threat level like for you? Like, were you in a dangerous spot?
We got bombed and missiled every day. We had mortars and rockets every single day. For the first 4 years I was over there, I was on a camp called Anaconda.
Oh, yeah.
It was 30,000 people. It was the biggest air base in Iraq. All the F-16s, all the drones launched from that air base right there, just 40 clicks north of Baghdad.
Right.
And so the base was so big with 30,000 people that it was like 6 miles long and like 4 miles wide. And they would just pot shoot at us all day long, And so they had these alarms. It was incoming, 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 and you would run to the bunkers. And we did this every day, over and over and over. After a couple of months, you don't even get up at night. I'm just laying there in my hooch, incoming, incoming. It's like, that's okay. I'm good, I wouldn't even get out of bed,
Yeah.
Other people,
What do they hit? What do they? You say?
they would hit just out in the field. Every once in a while they'd hit a building. They might hit the runway.
They were bad shots.
They didn't know what they were shooting for. They were just lobbing stuff in. They were Iranian-made rockets. They had several different sizes. I had some close calls. One day I went to the operations building. At the time I was working with maintenance, and we had a van. And I drove like the 200 or 300 yards to operations, and I was standing in the hallway, and I was dealing with the girl in paperwork. I was like, okay. I go get in the van, turn on the music. I drive the few hundred yards back to the maintenance area, and they're all in the bunker. They said, what are you doing? I said, I don't know. What are you guys doing? They said, there's incoming. I was like, oh, okay. So I get in the bunker, and we waited out. We come out, and they're like, operations got hit. I said, what? They said, yeah, operations got hit by a rocket. It didn't explode. I was like, whoa. I was like, really? I go up there and look. It hit the hallway where I was standing, the doorway I was standing. This 10-foot rocket came in, and it hit and broke the concrete where I was standing. My son-in-law was working at the time over there with me, and he was in the room right next to it. He had got up to go to the bathroom, and that rocket bounced off the floor and through his chair and out the building on the other side.
Oh, my.
And we were both like, that's a good story to tell.
Whew, divine intervention, brother.
But at the same
So
time,
they're just flinging at you whatever they can build.
I mean, I was sitting in my office one day and I heard incoming, and I was like, I got too much to do, and I heard boom, and I looked out back and I could see the poof about 100 yards from my office. A mortar had hit in the parking lot, and we were like, oh, check that out, man.
Yeah.
Sit back down and go.
Were there a lot of people getting injured every day in those things? Or?
No, not every day. In fact, it was such a disruption. They finally quartered up. They had quadrants of the base because it was too much. I mean, you had 3 miles away, you got incoming, and you're going into Bucker. It didn't make sense.
Yeah, right.
And
Yeah, so they're letting you know if it's within a proximity of 5 miles.
Quadrant, yeah.
So how many of those a day would hit your actual where you were at?
Yeah, nothing would. Usually, they'd never hit a building. I mean, there was several close calls. We had people that did get killed. I mean, we had people that got hit, but for the most part, it was a 1 in 100 probably your chance of getting.
I hate to put it like this, but do you almost get a little bit used to it, where you're?
I was totally used to it.
Like I said, you almost condition yourself to where you're not. Your blood pressure is not even getting up when you hear that.
And a lot of people got like that,
Well, I mean, I'd say the first 2 or 3 days you were there, it was probably like, whoa, this
at first
is real.
It's traumatic.
Yeah.
And I saw people. I literally would see people. They would come in. They'd put them on the little bus. They'd bring them to our side of the base. They'd get off the bus. They'd be their luggage. They'd be in debriefing. Here's what you're going to do. Here's your living quarters and stuff. Incoming. Okay, everybody go out to the bunker. And these people would go to the bunker and they would say, "Put me back on the plane. I'm leaving."
I
not
quit.
one day.
And
I've seen that people 2 days, 3 days. That was not uncommon at all. 50% of the people that came in wouldn't make it a month. Because they couldn't handle it.
It seems like those jobs, if you're qualified enough to get in them, you got a job.
Yeah.
I got an uncle over there right now, and I mean, he had the qualifications, and I mean, he's pretty much naming his price over there. I mean, but he's under some. I don't want to say bad like that. I don't think he's in that bad, but I think it's somewhat like that.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I'd say there's always the threat of
Yeah.
But he's like I said. Whenever I say naming his price, I mean it's worth it.
Well, and I mean they're what we would call outside the wire. So I stayed on the base.
So's he. He's on the base. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So there's people that's outside the wire and inside the wire, and the people that go outside the wire get a lot more money.
Yeah.
A lot more money.
He's done that.
Yeah.
And he likes working on bases better, I think.
Yeah. Well, the security thing,
Yeah.
there's so many people that got killed outside,
He's done short stints outside the wire. Like 6
well,
weeks.
Whereas
or
when we had Scott King on, Scott was an outside the wire guy.
Yeah. You need to go back.
He
ran
ran security. Yeah.
We had a guy on the show that ran security for a third party that.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, they're
it's
hair
intense.
trigger. They're.
He said you'd be going down the road and they'd be in charge of protecting somebody, and they'd have to. These people would stuff dogs, dead dogs full of dynamite on the side of the road.
Yeah,
leave them on the side, and he'd. He just said it was crazy how they would have to check stuff out.
And that was whenever I did the surveillance gig. The last 2 years I was over there. The last year in Iraq was in Basra, which was a State Department ran thing, and I was doing the elevated surveillance, which was cameras on these 100-foot towers we would raise up, and they're $1 million FLIR cameras that can see in the dark for miles.
Yeah.
And we were watching the perimeter of this air base because it was State Department, and we had several generals there, and I mean, it was a big deal. And there's not a lot of action, and stuff, and that was cool and all. And then it got down. So the war ended the last day of 2011. We're coming up on Christmas, and we still don't know what are we going to do. And at the time, I thought, well, I'll just stay on with the State Department and running these sensors and stuff. But at that point, I'd been 5 years in Iraq, and I mean, you're over there. You're working, 7/12s, because that's how.
Did you get you get 2 30-day stints a year to come home?
Actually, the companies I was with, it was 4 months of 7/12s and 2 weeks off. 4 months of 7/12s, 2 weeks off.
And you would come home in those 2 weeks?
No, because you got to stay outside the United States.
4 months of 7/12s.
2 weeks
Shit.
off. Yeah. Yeah. And you got to stay, if you're an expat or if you're working outside the United States, and this is true with any industry, you have to stay outside the United States for 330 days out of 365
To be tax-free.
to get tax-free status on, and right now it's around 100,000. the first 100,000.
Yeah.
Well, crap, that's like $20,000 or $27,000 is what I got back on taxes one year, because I paid in and then got it back. So
Yeah.
But then at once
Big
a year,
hit
Yeah.
for you. You know,
Yeah.
somebody walks up to you and hands you $30,000. I mean, that's a nice hit.
So what are you going to do these 2 weeks? 2 weeks. I'm going to go to Thailand, go to Spain. I fly my wife to Spain, fly her to Paris, fly her to Scotland.
That's
fly
what
to
he
Thailand.
does. He'll fly her somewhere over there,
Yeah.
and meet her there,
See the world,
See the
and
world,
then we spend $4,000, and it's like I just saved $10,000.
Yeah, right.
whatever.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, happy day.
yeah, no kidding. I mean, it's like this is terrible.
Yeah.
And all this with no college education other than just
No,
that's
just-
amazing.
Yeah, and
That's
I mean
amazing. To take that path.
Well,
I mean, as a guy sitting here with no college education
Yeah,
as well, and I mean, to end up where I'm at.
well, I
versus,
mean, I think
what a
it
journey.
is- I mean, yeah, I think that's just. I think it's what you do
Sure,
with,
sure.
with what you got.
It's really kind of like the American dream.
Yeah.
Although
Yeah.
it's not, because I didn't have one successful thing that ever just. I'm the American dream.
Yeah.
Capitalism made me a millionaire.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
did not.
Yeah.
Didn't quite. What it did is it kept me from getting my retirement.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
I thought I was going to make a million.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, right.
And then you get into writing your own software.
The code,
coding.
yeah, the HTML coding, yeah.
Okay, so then so how did that fall apart? I mean, what happened there?
I
Did
didn't
it?
have enough money and I didn't have enough business sense. I thought I was smarter than I was.
How long?
And I
How
didn't
long?
realize the capital you needed. I had like 100,000. You need like $10 million to jump in that, even at that time.
Even early on.
Yes.
How long did that business last? What was the lifespan?
2
lifespan?
years.
2
2 years. And it was also
pretty
at
good
the-
though, dude.
It was at the bubble bust.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the end, I ended up selling out to break even.
Right.
Because I had a competitor that basically bought my client base and what I had going, and got me out to where I didn't owe anybody any money. Because I started getting upside down.
well,
on
at that time,
things,
like if you can get out of something like that
What
without
do
a
you
bankruptcy,
What do you get upside down on in that space?
the server space, and then just living expenses. It just got to be living expenses for me. I mean,
Yeah.
because I was doing the technical, the IT, everything. I was doing 100% of all of it. And that was the other thing I didn't. So I was putting in about 20 hours a day.
Yeah.
Which really took a toll on me. At a certain point, I got to where I just could not do it.
Yeah.
But I wasn't making enough money to really hire anybody.
Yeah.
Didn't have enough business sense or money to get the advertisement. I would run an advertising campaign for $4,000 that I would spend in one day.
Yeah.
Well, good grief! Yahoo would run. They were watching and monitoring. As soon as I would put out this ad campaign, well, they'd spend $10,000 or $20,000 or $50,000
And bury it.
and they would bury me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized, oh my God, I needed millions of dollars to compete with these people, but I didn't realize it would be that way. Lack of business sense.
Right,
You know what I
right,
mean?
right.
In that industry. And then you had the bubble burst, the .com bubble
Yeah.
burst.
Yep.
What's that?
The right there, 2000, 2001.
Early 2000s, I believe, is when they refer to that. It's basically think of the mortgage bubble of like
Giving everybody
where all the banks and everything were
giving everybody money.
giving everybody money, and then couldn't pay the fiddler, and boom.
Yeah, you had the same with they call it .com
The
bubble.
.com industry. You had a lot of companies that were over leveraged
Yeah.
and couldn't.
So give me an example of a company like that,
Me.
or like somebody's name that I would
And I really can't think
Well,
of it off the top
one
my
of the more
head. It's-
popular ones that went down in that was there used to be a one called Ask Jeeves.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh,
one.
yeah,
I
yeah.
call the secretary or the Natalie down there at the office. I call her Jeeves because I can ask her anything.
Yeah. I might be wrong on that, but I think they were one example of a larger one that bit the dust.
Well, and and you look at companies like Yahoo. At the time,
Yeah.
they were the industry giant.
Yeah.
I mean, they were
They were
everything.
huge in the beginning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there
Google-
was no
Google
such
seems-
thing as Google.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Google was like this little minuscule,
Yeah.
fly on the wall.
Well, and they really took advantage of being liquid in that time, and that's how they experienced a ton of their growth. I mean,
How did I don't know how long this is going to go. You let me know.
I don't know where we're at now.
But So, and I know certain things about this. You can jump to level 2 possibly, from what I, for me. But how do those companies? How were you making your money?
Well, off of selling web hosting space
To who?
anybody. I had businesses that had online businesses. I actually had a couple of musicians that were trying to be some of the forerunners, and jump in, because this was way early in the industry. People were still with dial-up. Most people in the country at the time were using a phone, and it was, things were very little bandwidth. And I had musicians that were actually breaking in. They were putting songs up, and I was helping them with their technical issues and
So
stuff.
you're hosting web pages.
Web pages, yeah.
Well,
Open
and I
web
mean,
space and help
am I
people
right?
figure
So-
it out.
Am I tracking you correctly in saying that, like, what this was essentially like you store at lockers for
No.
internet info?
Well, it was like
it was more like a staffing
A host.
agency for your online presence,
yeah. Well, so
right?
you have a website for
You run it.
stockroom or whatever.
Yeah.
Where does that exist at? Well, you
Where-
got
where-
to go
okay.
to somebody that's a web host.
Yeah.
They have a server that's got a backbone connection, and
That-
that
that's-
server is like
that's
double
working that.
redundant, and it's like
Yeah.
in a basement with
Yeah.
fire suppression.
Yeah. Okay.
Off somewhere with T3 lines, redundant.
Yeah.
So it never goes down, and it's got huge amount of space, huge amount of bandwidth. So no matter what happens, you've got the growth potential there. And you take that server and you've divided up into chunks, and here's for your company and here's for your company. You're on the same server blade, but your companies that exist in your own world, and you do whatever you want with that space. And as you grow, we give you more space on the blade until you take the blade, take the rack, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
You get a dedicated server, and now there's nobody on that server with you.
So that's why
but you-
Amazon built their own.
Yeah. So yeah, Amazon has a like a server
Yeah.
farm.
AWS, Amazon Web Services.
Yeah. So, and that's what it is. I mean, it's giant underground bunkers that are very secure, and redundantly backed up and fire suppressed, and that's
So
for
Google probably
hosting
has
stuff.
this just massive station
Yeah.
somewhere.
They
Then,
have
don't they?
more than one.
All over.
All over the place.
Yeah. And it's called the cloud.
Yeah.
So it's the cloud, and I was, before they called it the cloud, that's what I was operating.
Just
was part of the cloud.
Storage and staffing basically is what you were.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
the website.
And do you want blogs? Here's some CGI script. Here's things you can use to.
There's a format.
Yeah.
For it.
You can plug this stuff in and then manipulate it to make it look like you want it to look and do what you want to do. And
And you were
then it-
handling all that, coding all
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
It was a massively.
That's a lot.
It was
That's
a
a
lot.
lot.
Yeah.
Just posting on Facebook's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, and now, I mean, I was logged into the back end of one of my web accounts yesterday and looking at all the stuff, because now I'm on somebody else's services. The guy that bought me out, actually, that's who I use for my websites. And I was looking at all the stuff he'd added, and I was like, oh, God, I don't even know what some of this stuff means anymore. And my youngest daughter, she's actually she's a big shot in this stuff. She's a
Grab
big
me one,
coder and
Chad.
stuff.
Or hey, grab him Black and Milds out there somewhere. I got a whole packet here somewhere. They're right there.
I it was yours. I cracked those open a minute ago.
That's all right. You want another one?
Oh, is that Johnny Walker? Oh my God!
Oh, and then I tell you, while you're up, give
white
me another
label.
Busch Latte. Yeah, you don't care, do you?
Yeah.
So we went and taken us a leak, and now we're back. So
Yeah,
I
we're
don't know
back.
where we left off.
I don't know. Let's circle back around to the air traffic controlling, because
Okay.
in our little intermission there, Sandy told an interesting story about when planes fly over the ocean, and lose radar contact.
Yes. So
How does that work?
yeah. So and I'm not sure these days, because now this was in the 90s.
Sure.
And I mean at the time we were experimenting with GPS because it was experimental.
Yeah.
No planes were actually authorized by the FAA at the time. Even in the late 90s and 2000, they weren't authorized to use GPS systems to navigate or land or take off. Private planes were doing it,
Right.
just not say anything about it, because they're not really, They're pretty well VFR, visual flight rules anyway.
Yeah.
But the airlines, they weren't authorized to do it, and I think the pilots were probably sitting up there, with their devices.
They might have had it, yeah.
Of some type. So Ocean and Houston Air Route Traffic Control controlled the Gulf of Mexico, which is 100,000 square miles of we can't see it. There's
no radar.
Yeah, no radar. So it's non-radar air traffic. And we had these huge boards, strips of paper that show you when they fly over certain fixes at a certain time and a certain altitude. And when they come off the airport and they're kicking out, you've got to load all these strips in and put it on this huge board and figure out where's this going to work, and how are they going to fit. And if they don't fit, now I've got to move them to a different altitude. Will that work? And you got to look all the way across.
And how are you knowing where they are to get these printouts? Are they pinging like
they've got a transponder.
The transponder is pinging off a buoy or something, or
so when they're coming off the airports and stuff, they're still in radar and it's still all just air traffic control.
Right.
So, and we calculate the computers at the time, and it used to be done totally by hand, but would calculate fixed time, route. So this is their airspeed. This is where they're at. This is the winds aloft, part of that meteorological stuff. How's it going to affect them? So how long is it going to take them to get from point A to point B to point C to point D? Because you've got all these crossing fixes or points out in the Gulf of Mexico, because you got traffic coming from all different directions, going different directions, just like here. And so when they come off the airport, you put the strips of paper in, you load it up, you figure out what's the best altitude that they can work at. If they really want a high altitude, you might even have to hold them for a spin or two before they get out to your airspace, so you can give them the timing. Because now in non-radar, you have to have 15 minutes of crossing time. If this plane's crossing at 33,000 at 1,200, the other one can't come through until 12:15 or 12:16. You want to give yourself a little buffer.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you've got a deal. Again, you've got an infraction, and you can't have that or you're gone.
Yeah. Okay.
So you would set this all up as they're kicking off, and it's very intense, and then as the planes came into your airspace, you're working the ocean, you've got a little bit of radar. It goes to about 100 miles offshore for all land, everywhere in the world. And you would tell these pilots, because by now you've got it set up. By this point, if you don't have it set up, you're screwed. You cannot get to 50 miles offshore and not know what you're doing with these guys.
Okay.
So you would say, here's your altitude and your speed, and there's your fix. 100 miles offshore, your radar service terminated. Contact Monterey Center at such and such coordinates. Have a good day, sir. And you would let them run, and that's how it would run. And then they would ping a buoy that AirInc, which is it's a New York firm that had buoys out in the ocean that had radios on them, and these guys would just send a coded message to them telling them, I'm at this fix at this altitude at this time. So if it was updated, if say they were a minute fast, you would go through and you would update all your strips and make sure you were still good. If you weren't good, then you had a problem. So you start trying to move people, and it's really hard to move them once they're out there. So that's why you gave yourself a buffer of some type, because you really, if there's,
you don't know exactly where they are.
If you're running 15 minutes and they're 1 minute fast, now what? They got 14 minutes? That's not going to work. That's not possible. You can't do that. So you've got to have a little buffer. You got to get them out there. And so I'd said earlier in the program, I'd said something about the working with the different airlines. We had Aeromexico. And not trying to slam them. It's just at the time. So they're run by the Mexican government or something. I don't know. Anyway, they kicked off from, I can't remember, Atlanta or whatever, and they've got to go across. They're headed towards South America. And they're coming out of Miami.
Mexican airline.
Yeah, Mexican airline. Coming out of Miami's airspace. We've got the corner of airspace down there where they go from Miami, they go through our airspace, then they go into Monterey's airspace, and then on down. And they didn't check in when they were supposed to check in. And we were like, okay, so we've missed an air rink. They didn't check in at this corner at this fixing time. So
you'll catch them on the next.
Going to catch them on the next at the same time. Now we start working on a lost plane scenario, because once you don't check in, we have to initiate protocols.
Yeah.
And so
I mean, that's a relatively big deal, correct?
It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
And how do they check in?
They got to check in by those buoys at that time.
Oh, so they'll send a signal.
Yeah,
to
they'll
that buoy.
contact them, and they didn't.
Okay.
And then, so they're supposed to be in Monterey's airspace at this time. So we're in close contact with Monterey saying, you know, okay, you should be in contact. Are you in contact? They're like, no, we can't talk to them yet. Because usually you can talk to them, 100 some miles offshore. We're not hearing them. We're not hearing them. We're not hearing. Then when it gets to where they should be in radar, and Monterey says, we don't have radar contact on that plane. And they're supposed to be in radar contact. Now we have a lost aircraft.
Yeah.
So we've already started initiating protocols. Where is this guy? Where'd he go?
Lives could be on the line.
Yeah. People are freaking out. I mean, and I thank God I was not working the ocean airspace at the time, because my buddy that was had to take a few days off after this, because it was terrible. I mean, he thought he'd just lost, 300 people on a flight in the ocean.
And this isn't something that normally happens.
No, it
Yeah,
was
I
a
mean,
rare circumstance. All of a sudden, over here, Meredith Center calls and says, hey, we got this plane that just checked in. We found them on radar. It's Aero Mexico, something. We're like, yeah, we've been looking at them, looking for them for over an hour and a half.
Yeah.
They just checked in. They're out of fuel. They're at 33,000 feet. They're headed towards us. We're like, what the fuck?
Yeah. That's welcome.
Yeah.
That really perfectly described the scenario.
It was. It was. That was
yeah,
what we were all saying.
yeah,
The superintendent, everybody, the supervisor was going, what? And it's like, oh my God, now what? They're out of fuel at 33,000 feet. And that's when we all got a really good lesson. And remember what you learned at the academy?
Oh, yeah.
These guys have a better glide slope without engines than a small plane. So at 33,000 feet and 100 miles out, they were able to glide all the way to within a couple of thousand feet of the airstrip, and they stuck it in the mud before the emergency landing zone. Everybody survived, and you didn't hear a word about it on the news. We never heard a word about it. We were like, so these people came within an inch of losing their life, and nobody said anything. They were like, it's in Mexico, and it's their airlines.
Yeah, they're not going to talk about that, guys.
Ixnay on the airlines.
Yeah, not going to do it.
No news on it ever popped up, But in the meantime, I mean, my buddy, he was distressed. He was like, because they were taking him to the back, they were drug testing him and stuff. Man, you've lost a plane full of people. We got to take you off the boards. You're gonna have to go through some retraining and stuff.
So there's a crew of people coming in just to do that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
what
it's a-
While everybody else is looking for the plane.
Well, he stayed on the boards through the scenario because we couldn't pull him at that moment
Yeah,
because he's
right.
like too involved.
Yeah.
But as soon as that was over, it was like people were standing by, plugged in. It's like, okay, he's done. Pull him.
Yeah.
Now
what? How does a pilot, or what insight? How do they get lost?
Well, in that situation,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know because, again, it's in the 90s.
Yeah.
And the navigation was a lot less, and there was no GPS. Now, due to GPS, and it's authorized.
So
by
he
the
was just
FAA.
going off of like longitude and latitude measurements.
At the time, our nav aids were ground based, and so we've got what they call tack. They're tack hands.
Okay.
And if you've ever been to an airport and you see these funky things that looks like some sort of pyramid-looking structure, kind of rounded top, and then it's got all these little things sitting around it.
Yeah.
And it's in a fenced area.
Yep.
That is a tack hand, and it's pointing. It's sending out a signal in all these different 360 degrees. And airplanes navigate by those, by picking those up, and they go from one of those to the next one, and they put it in their system, and they dial it in, and that's how they navigate.
Okay.
And so, but in the Gulf of Mexico, when you got nothing, you kind of get your bearings, you aim, and you just go.
You know you're going to hit the next one at this point.
Yes.
You miss some,
And
but
somehow,
But like you really
This guy-
shouldn't be doing a lot of turns and
There's
things
no
like
turning,
that.
no.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
when you
So-
get put over, and this is over the Atlantic and Pacific, but all the airspace works the same in the water. When you leave land and radar, you get pointed, and you don't move. You stay on that route and that calculated distance and time and speed and altitude until you get to the next place where you can talk to a controller that has radar. And like if you're going to England, you go over Greenland and all that. So you make contact up there over Newfoundland, Greenland, and then into England. Because we look at a globe and it's like, well, no, England's straight across here. No, that's not. The straightest route is over the top of the globe.
Yep.
So when you lay it out flat, it looks like a big curved route, but it's actually straight to England. So, and that's, you go overseas to Europe or any place, you're going to go over Canada, Newfoundland, Greenland, and then come down over the UK and then into Europe. And that's your straightest, shortest shot, which is on a globe, you know.
Yeah.
So it's really
got a sphere to it.
Yes. And that's one of those things.
There's natural arc.
We didn't have to deal with that a lot in the
Well,
Gulf
an
of
arc
Mexico,
and a
you know.
arc and a
It's just
because you're cutting down the globe. A little
well, and we look at it in a flat way. You
Yeah.
know, when we flatten it out, we take all this at the top that's curved and we spread it out. You know, it's not really like that. You know, it's like okay, we just spread this all out.
So you're not a flat earther or flat.
I'm not really, no. You know, in all air traffic control in the whole world, this is something somebody doesn't know. Most people don't know. So the United States established air traffic control back in the, God, I can't even get my 20s, 30s. I can't remember exactly when. So we speak English. All air traffic control in the whole world, every controller and every pilot has to speak English.
I was just getting ready to ask you.
Russian pilots, Chinese pilots, Chinese air traffic controllers, Mexican air traffic controllers, everybody speaks English in terms of air traffic control. Now they may not be fluent. They don't know how to go to a restaurant and order food.
Right.
But, you know, fly 300 knots, climb and maintain flight level, blah blah blah.
They know
You know,
that.
this is your next fix. Contact this person at this, you know, point in latitude and longitude on this frequency, all in English. You know, we used to we'd get these flight plans from Mexico. They would call us on a landline. They'd pass a flight plan, you know. This plane at this altitude, because the computer wouldn't generate it. Coming from them, it didn't spit out on the computer on a printer. Instead, they would call us on a landline. They'd say, this is the name of the plane. This is where he's going. This is where he's coming from. This is his altitude. This is his speed. This is his route, blah, 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 blah. And by that, you have to sit there and manually make out these strips of paper, and you have to know how far it is from this fix to this fix to this fix to this fix. At that speed, how long is it going to take him to get from here to there to there to there? And you work out this all on pieces of paper, and you put them in a board to figure out this plane coming up this way, where's he going to be? You know, and so that was a lot of...
This sounds like a hell of a day.
Yeah, it was a lot of work.
Well, you
know?
can see why a lot of people can't do it.
Yeah, and
I mean-
and for my particular sector, we had the biggest washout in the whole facility because of the ocean. If you couldn't work the ocean, you couldn't get fully qualified in my sector,
Right.
Because we own the ocean, you know.
Right.
And I mean, we had sectors that worked the north side of Houston and the east side of Houston, and all that part of Texas and stuff. They didn't have the ocean. We did.
Right.
So if you worked in my sector, you had to do that. We had people that would literally leave our sector and go to another one because they couldn't make it in the ocean.
Yeah.
Because there was too much calculating that had to go on here as you were moving planes on pieces of paper. You know, so it was technically challenging. Yeah, it was hard.
Yeah.
But it was fun.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was like, it was stimulating.
Well, I'd say you didn't have very many boring days.
No, never
mean,
a boring
yeah.
day.
What's it? How long's the shift?
The shifts were 8 hours, but typically, and because I did some work for the FAA at the time that was time on position reports, we called it, and basically for my sector, we were time on position would be about 4 hours in an 8 hour shift that you're actually working traffic.
The rest of it you're calculating.
No, the rest of it, you were sitting in the TV room, or you were in our dining facility, or you.
They wanted you to literally be unplugged
You
for a
had to.
while.
You had to.
Yeah.
Because it was too intense. When you work 30 minutes of traffic, you need a 30-minute break. You know,
Right,
and sometimes an hour break. Because I mean, if you got your butt kicked, you know, and it happened every single day. You know, to somebody, the few people that worked the hard sectors at rush hour.
Yeah.
You needed a break, you know, and the people that worked ocean. So the worst times to work the ocean, the worst times was if we had fog and we have all these platforms, oil platforms in the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah.
You just don't realize how many hundreds of helicopters are flying back and forth to these platforms until you have fog. Now all of a sudden it's not VFR, visual flight rules. They're not on their own. Now they're calling
using
us, and we're trying to set up flight plans, and we're down at 2,000 and 3,000 feet.
Yeah.
You know, And it's not, we never see them. We never see them. It's all on paper, we're trying to work this out, and it's like, oh my
And
God.
those things are like flies. They're just
It's a nightmare. I hated that. Everybody hated that. No matter who you were, nobody liked offshore helicopter traffic in the fog.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a nightmare.
I would say even something like down at Myrtle Beach would be hectic, where those where those planes are just flying back and forth with banners and stuff all day.
Well, no, those are VFR. See, again, they're not
So
talking
like
air
your
traffic
our
controllers.
county
They're
airport,
too low.
Our
Yeah.
county airports, it's all VFR,
Yes,
visual flight rules.
visual flight rules. You can't fly in the clouds. You can't fly after dark. You have to fly when you can visually see where you're going. And you're not instrument rated, so you're not IFR, which is instrument flight rules. So
Okay.
everybody that flies a little plane is VFR. They're not instrument flight rated. And
Okay.
even the ones that are, they don't really want to do that instrument stuff. They've got the knowledge, but, I mean, if you're a little puddle jumper.
They want to fly on a clear day.
Yeah, they want to stay down, 15,000 or less.
Yeah.
Most single engine planes will fly 10,000 or less because you don't need oxygen. When you get above 10,000, you need a pressurized cab, that type of thing.
So they're gonna stay low anyway.
Yeah. So, and I mean that's fun flying, and all you got to do is file a flight plan with your little local tower, which is not FAA anymore. Back in the 90s, they took those out so whenever I graduated the academy, I did.
So what
There's
academy is this?
The FAA Academy.
Okay.
So the first couple of months of it is in the classroom. And they are throwing chapters of work at you every day, several chapters a day. So you would cover the equivalent of a month of college in a week. And they were throwing this stuff at you in one day. The next day you had a test in the morning.
And this is part of weeding out that 60%.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're just hammering you with information and knowledge, and I mean, like the meteorological part, we took like a year's worth of meteorological stuff and it lasted like 2 weeks, but it was just intense. Just
They
cramming.
paying you that during that?
Yeah. Yeah. You're getting a low wage GS7, GS8, something low on the government scale. And in that part, I literally was having a hard time, And I mean, which was kind of blowing my mind because I'd always been a straight A student and, scored 100 on everything, so I was kind of like, but when we got to the labs, which we were actually in a lab the last 2 or 3 weeks, 3 weeks, I guess, of the academy, you're working an all non-radar facility type of scenario. You have an instructor behind you, you have a helper, everything's on strips of paper, and you've got a map of a certain set area, and there's no radar, but every single plane that would come out, you had to tell them, according to these strips of paper, what their altitude would be at what point and their crossing. So if it's this kind of angle, they have to cross at 17 miles at this altitude or below. If it's this kind of thing, it's got to be 13 miles. At this kind of, it's 11 miles. And you got to know all this off this map you've memorized. Well, me and my buddy had been working on this. We'd been spending 4 hours a day working on this stuff. So when we get to the lab, I went in there, and I didn't even have to look at the map. I didn't have to look at the index card. I had it memorized. They'd put the strips of paper up. I was like, climb, maintain, flight level, or, 13,000, cross 17 miles north of such fix at 17,000 or above, climb, maintain, flight level 190, descend and maintain. You give them the whole route, bam, 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 up and down through your airspace and into the landing zone. And when I got to that, I blew him away, and the instructor was going, "What the hell is this? Where did you come from?"
Yeah.
At the end of the day, when I finished the academy, I was middle of the road grade-wise. So the highest people got to go to the radars facility. The lower people went to the air traffic control towers, which is what I wanted. But I was too high to get in a tower.
Okay.
And I didn't know that. You don't know what's going to happen when you go to placement.
Right.
So what's the tower doing? They're orchestrating the runways.
Yeah, the tower is the people that are doing that stuff you see in the movies. It's cool where they're up there with the binoculars and they're watching the planes, and they're get off the runway, you're released, and
Yeah.
you think that's all air traffic control. That's a very little part of it. And that's what I wanted to do at Tulsa or Fort Smith or somewhere close to where I grew up. I was like, that's what I want to do. So I walk into the placement room, and they said, "You got Houston Center. What'd you think of the course?" I said, "Well, I was kind of wanting a tower in Tulsa or something." They said, "You got Houston Center. What do you think of the course?" It was great and grand. I loved it. They were like, "Great. Send in the next person. Get out of here."
Yeah.
So I scored too low to actually name what center I went to, what radar facility, and it was too high to get into a tower. And I was like, "Oh God!" So I went to Houston out of force. I was.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't know. If I would have got my choice and chose Dallas, that would have been worse probably because Houston ended up being better. I mean, I'm down there by Galveston.
Yeah.
We spent countless days on the beach all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of a dirty beach, isn't it?
It is a very dirty beach. Yeah.
dirty
And at
beach.
times we had the sludge washing up,
Did you?
and
I've never seen it in the summer. Every time I'm always there in February.
It's just, whenever there's an oil spill, and back then in the 90s, we seem to have that.
They got that big dock
There's a little
there. I
puff
went to
there.
that the last time I was there. That
Pleasure Pier.
where they like the oil docks down there
Oh.
on like I don't know what side that would be on. I guess I just never really
The
looked
north
at.
side of the island there by where the cruise ships come in.
Yeah.
You see all the
Yeah,
oil
there was some-
platforms that are
yeah,
pulled up
there
over
was
there.
freights and stuff, and they're running a lot of boats out there, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's something. I mean, you're probably used to that. Like I went over there to see that.
Yeah.
I didn't even know. I'd never seen anything.
You
like
realize
that.
there's that much boat traffic.
Well, like
in that
whenever I
port?
say boats, I mean ships.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I mean, I'd never seen like a port like of
Yeah.
ships.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean oil ships.
Yeah,
and-
when you're in Galveston now, you can look out there on the horizon and count no less than 20 ships.
Yeah,
20,
around you.
Coming in. Yeah.
Yeah, that are waiting to either.
I can't see the ocean from Moody. I had to drive over to it.
Well, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
We've never been to Moody because we always stay really close to the ocean. On one side or the other.
Well, and I just realized that this last trip, if I would have went back, I went last year, and obviously this year they're not having it. It's all digital now, Zoom, the seminar that we always do. But
Bummer.
Yeah,
You missed
but-
out on it.
Yeah, but I thought next time I probably won't stay at Moody. I thought I'll probably stay down there on the strip somewhere.
Yeah, man, stay on the seawall.
Yeah, and that way I can at
there's
least look
plenty
out
of
and see
hotels
it.
that are looking right out there.
Yeah,
I mean,
because Moody's kind of like it's more of a business conference center.
yeah, and it's its own little thing.
My God, it's
just-
huge.
Yeah,
It is huge.
I mean it's a killer facility, but
yeah, and our home office is the only skyscraper in Galveston, and it's the only one I think with an underground parking. And they had all kinds of wildlife in there and stuff the last time it flooded. Last time it flooded, the sea turtle. They had all kinds of sea turtles
really?
and stuff in there. Yeah,
I can see that.
yeah. They had pictures of it. Galveston's been underwater a few times.
a bunch of times. That's
Yeah.
why the seawall exists, is because
Yeah.
the hurricane in 1900 that just completely devastated
Devastated
killed
Galveston.
thousands of
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
I mean,
A lot of homeless there too. Like you go over those viaducts and stuff and look down. There's some
Yeah.
homeless.
Yeah,
I mean
yeah.
it's kind of like Galveston's just kind of like going to the beach. And you got about 3 blocks back, and that's about it.
yeah, you really don't want to be 2 blocks away from the beach
Yeah,
because it's like
yeah.
this is kind of seedy over here.
Yeah, and you just kind of drive over a canal, and you're on an island. It's
Yeah.
it's kind of
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah, it's a small little
It's
place.
but I love it over there, man. But the weird thing is, whenever you're in Texas, is you can go from 30 or 40 degrees to 80 in a matter of 12 hours,
Yeah,
especially in February.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. If you go from say the Panhandle down to where we're at, I mean, it's huge difference.
difference.
Because you can have snow up there, and we get snow once every 10 years, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
so that's
a
where
few
your home
flakes
is now,
fall and-
Houston.
yeah, that's 30 years.
How cold does it get there, Sandy?
It's 65 there
Yeah,
today.
30 or 40.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it might
it's-
get down in the 20s once a
it's
year, maybe.
Pretty
day.
rare that you're going to get a
It's-
frost though, or something.
Yeah,
Like.
frost is kind of, we get a frost every once in a while. It'll last 2 or 3 hours. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Jacket or not
Yeah.
is the
yeah,
question.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
my well house, I live on a well, and it's not insulated. And when it gets down where they say it's going to be cold, I got a light bulb I turn on out there, and that'll suffice. I mean, there's no wrap pipes or nothing like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. That's nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm ready for it. Believe me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You've probably really enjoyed this winter up here,
Oh,
man.
yes,
Yeah, I mean,
thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. So let's talk about. I mean, we could go on forever on air traffic control, but
Yeah.
so let's talk about. So you're with you're not with TransCanada, but you are part of. You're a subcontractor basically with TransCanada.
Yeah,
the
well, we
pipeline.
work for TransCanada. We work for Enbridge. We work for many different Exxon and Mobil and Energy Transfer.
Yep.
A lot of these companies. And basically, we work more for the companies that are what they call the midstream supply, which is running the pipelines. So
Okay.
you've got your ones that run the wells, and then you've got your people that run the refineries, and you have the middle of the pack that gets the product from the wells to
the
where it's going to be
refinery.
refined.
So let's talk about what's happening here that just came from Pennsylvania, and where is that where it came from? This
Now that particular line, I'm not working on that particular line.
Oh, okay,
And that
okay.
one probably, because most, and this is kind of weird, but most pipelines in the country go through Cushing, Oklahoma. I mean, it's like a giant, what you would call a manifold would be a good way to look at it.
Okay.
Where everything comes in and then everything gets distributed off to refineries, which is, it's kind of wild, but Cushing is, that's the biggest hub in America for pipelines. So,
Okay.
and even the Keystone pipeline, that's where it was headed. I don't know if they actually hooked up to Cushing or not yet, but they've had, part of it has been functioning. The part they shut down was just another part of the Keystone.
So you're no way, shape, or affiliated with this one that just came through here.
There was 4 pipeline companies in here at the same time.
Wow.
Holy
And-
shit!
Yeah, and that's one of the things people don't know is they
Yeah, because I just hear pipeliner and I just assume you're
welcome
one of those.
pipeliners. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So there's 4 different companies in here at the same time. A couple of them, if not 3 of them, have already left, and we are finishing up. What we're doing is working on older lines. We're doing what's called anomaly digs. And that's just the division I'm with in my company right now, because we do a lot of new stuff. We do facilities, which is building stuff that are compressor stations, meter stations, and then we do a lot of anomaly digs. So, and the good thing about anomaly digs is it's federally mandated that you keep these lines in good shape. So there's nothing that the government or anybody else is going to do that's going to jeopardize safety. So we have to stay functioning. So Enbridge and TransCanada and all these other people have to maintain the old lines, and that's what we've been doing, is maintaining old lines. 1945, 1950.
So I was telling you where I lived, and it came through there about 4 years ago out on the other side of the airport.
Yeah,
And they just, all they did was replace a section of it.
Yeah.
It was about a 6-month project.
yeah, and that's exactly the same type of thing we're doing. I mean, we've just worked on 3,000 foot of line. It was 900 some feet on one line. It was 3 lines that Enbridge operates on a right of way. It's line 25, 15, and 10. They call is the number.
Yeah.
That's what they call
What's
them.
the identification number?
Yeah,
of it?
and they're 30, 36 inch lines that carry whatever product. I think natural gas is probably what all 3 of these carry. And
You don't even know.
not for sure, exactly. Sometimes the companies don't want to tell us, which is kind of a big deal. We really want to know that, but it's always dangerous and it's always high pressure. So in the end, does it matter? No, it's dangerous and it's high pressure and it's flammable.
Right.
You can't touch that line. You
Yeah.
have all these things you got to do. You got to reduce the pressure before we dig.
So you're replacing lines right now.
We are not replacing them, as we're just going in and looking at. So they have what they call smart pigs. A pig
I've heard of these.
is something that is a big tool that is very complex, ultrasound type tool, and with other things on it that runs through the line for 20 miles, 5 miles, 100 miles, whatever. And it's looking at this line, and every bad spot it picks up on, it knows exactly where it's at.
It'll
And
pinpoint
then,
it.
yeah, and then they get this information, and the engineers look at it and they say, well, we've got some bad spots, anomalies here and here and here that really need to be looked at, because the integrity of the pipeline may be compromised. This was put in 1945, and the readings aren't good. We need that dug up, we need that looked at, and we need a determination what we got going on.
So the machine can't determine it.
Not exactly.
So you're going to go through tens of if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in certain stuff. You're not talking a 30-mile stretch. You're talking stretches probably 1,200 feet at a time.
Yeah, and even more so, most of the anomaly digs that my division does is 40 feet or 80 feet. It's a 40-foot dig or an 80-foot dig.
And you're cutting out and replacing.
Cutting out and replacing, or we come along and strip the coating, and they find out, look, everything's really good to go. We just need better coating on it, because the coating is from 1945 and it's not protecting the pipe. We're starting to get pits on the pipe. And so, and that's a whole nother thing that how does rust form and stuff is more of a cathode anode thing, electrons being pulled, and they got all this technical stuff that goes on with that.
Way above my pay grade.
Yeah, it's
Way above
exactly.
my.
It's like, okay, whatever, but we get it stripped back and we get it sandblasted and stuff, and then there's another contractor that's, again, it's not TransCanada, it's not Enbridge, it's a third party that comes in, not us, that's specialized in doing non-destructive testing on doing what they call magging, which is magnetizing and then spraying a powder coating on there and seeing where there might be these residual cracks, and they do ultrasound looks.
Because it wouldn't magnetize if it was coated.
Well, it's all the pipes are magnetized anyway.
Okay.
So, and you really wouldn't know it, but you dig up a pipeline, you can take a welding rod, throw it up against it, it just sticks to it because they've got that much magnetism to it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So when we do cut out a part, it's interesting. When we do cut out a section, we have to put a new section in. We have to bring in a welding machine for each side that is doing nothing but just you wrap the leads around that piece of old pipe and this old pipe. And when we cut this out, then they turn those on so that it demagnetizes those. So when we put the new part in, you can actually weld it. Because if you weld it and it's magnetized, all that molten metal sticks to the side that's magnetized. So you have to demagnetize it with these welding machines that aren't doing anything but just coils around it.
Yeah.
Sucking the power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the whole process. It's very technical process.
So you're hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
On a section of pipe.
Yes, yeah, it's very expensive because you got to mobilize in people and mats and gravel.
And you've went through 24 months of pre-screening of that thing by the time you contact the landowners, by the time you remove any trees, by the time you put in roads, by the time you get access to the property.
Yes, yeah.
I went through that.
Oh, yeah.
And it was about a 2-year ordeal.
Yeah. The landman. You got one. He's down there at the stock room all the time. He was down there the other
Matt
night.
Mancuso?
I can't remember his name. He's got the Venezuelan wife.
Yep. He was in there last
guy.
night.
He'll be here for a long time.
That's what he said. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what
he was
said.
here for like 2 years ahead of time, and now
Yeah.
he's going to be here for another year or two, And I'm like, dude, I wish I had your job,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
at least he gets to kind of put down roots a little bit.
Yeah,
you
he's
know?
renting the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just rented a house. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
and that was kind of what we was talking about earlier, about the, this pipeline and it's here. I mean, I don't know how much we will benefit from that, but just the commerce. Try that Johnny Walker.
I am going to.
Yeah.
now.
Do we have any
anxious
other
to get a
glasses?
review
I
on
wouldn't
that.
mind having a glass of that. Oh, I know what I was going to get. I was going to get my Stanley Cup.
Oh, well, there you go. Right over
Will you
there.
hand that to me, Tom? But
Yeah, so I'm getting ready to actually go do some HDDs in Texarkana.
you're
which
leaving
is-
Ohio and you're going to Texarkana.
Yeah, do some horizontal directional drilling, which all that means is
see
just we're going to tunnel under roads
let me
and
see
rivers and replace pipes that are.
So you won't live at home then?
No.
But you'll be close.
I'll be within 5 hours of the house, so at least I can go down there on the weekends.
Sure.
You
Yeah.
know? So here I'm 18 hours from the house. So I mean, it is what it is. I got to go home for Thanksgiving. I got to go home for Christmas. I had to make a couple of runs to Indiana.
Yeah, you
'cause
just
we've
went
got
to
a
Indiana
job.
the other day.
Yeah, they've got a job going on over there, so I had to go over there for some stuff they were doing, some emergency stuff they were doing. They brought in more people, and they needed a safety guy over there, and so I went over there to make sure everything was going like it's supposed to.
Yeah.
So
We talked about the commerce factor of we had before all of 2019 it was kind of in all four. Now the insurance business, I can't say that I heard it was coming that much. It's
Yeah.
kind of something that they're not really residents of Ohio, and typically they're not even from Ohio. So. But in the bar business, it was, hey, bud, get ready.
Yeah.
Get ready. Everybody was saying, our community was really, really, really excited to get it.
yeah, Rowdy's had to sign welcome
Pipeliners. Yeah,
I
yeah,
seen that
yeah.
when I came to town. I was like, yeah, that's for us.
Yeah,
for 3 other companies.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much.
So then we get into February or January. I think it was like a week ago or a year ago, like last week. The first case hit the United States, and you kind of heard about it. And where were you at then?
Oh Lord, where was I?
last January?
I was on a job in Freeport, Texas at the time.
Okay, so you're in Texas at that point.
Yeah, way down there. Really right on the coast. Again, in Freeport is south of Houston, about 45 minutes.
Oh, so you're down there close to where I was.
Yeah, it was Lake Jackson,
Okay. Yeah.
Freeport, same area. And we were working on some Olin jobs. Dow owns the land, and Olin runs some of the salt dome facilities down there.
Okay.
And they were putting in a new salt dome, and we were doing the piping between the new salt dome facility and existing structure. So we just, again, we're a pipeline company. We were doing the piping. There was another company that came in and did the drilling. We don't have nothing to do with that.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah. So, they kept talking about that here. It came in January, and then, a couple months go by. You guys are starting to come in, and, as things are picking up, you're starting to see, same groups of people coming in. Hey, we're pipeliners, come on in, and so, starting to get to know people, having the same regulars coming in. And then all of a sudden March hits, we get shut down for 2 months. Were you here then? When did you get here?
No, I didn't get here till October.
Till October, okay.
Yeah, like the first week of October whenever I showed up.
So then things ease up a little bit, and but honestly, I always felt like and everybody knows where we've went since then as far as the climate of the United States, and but I honestly felt like what we all were gearing up for now. There were lots of people put in campsites,
Yes.
people put in hotels. The hotel was empty. This project seemed like it was on hold for a minute.
Yeah.
Not a lot, but it was on hold for a second, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And just because of COVID. So we did all the onboarding. We had the facility where all these guys did the onboarding for this pipeline. So we was running about big groups. I won't give you a number of people, but big groups of people were coming into Park's Edge every day.
Yeah.
And they were showing them, hey, they were basically what they were doing is bringing in crews. Giving them their gist. They were giving them the snapshot of the work and the time frames that this was going to be done, where they were supposed to be at this date, how they're going to be set up, and they were showing it up on the big screen. It was really neat to watch.
Yeah.
And so once they got moving, and then so you've settled in. You came in here in October, and then you decided to settle in a hotel. And what I've always thought was interesting about your situation and guys like yours is how you. Like whenever you go somewhere next, you don't really know where it's going to be.
No.
But the good news is, in your line of work, you typically, if you're going to stay in a hotel, if a city if it's big enough for a hotel, odds are it's got at least a couple other things.
Yes. Yeah.
What's the worst place you've ever stayed?
Oh God. It would be probably somewhere in Iowa or Kansas, just because you're in the middle of nowhere. I mean, absolutely.
There's just
nowhere.
nothing to do or anything.
There is nothing to do, and the other side of that though is the worst place and the best place.
Right.
Because it's literally those are the places where people do not lock their doors.
Yeah.
And where you pull up to a fuel pump that is an old time fuel pump that you pump the fuel and then you go in and tell them how much you just pumped to pay for it.
Yeah.
Because you're on like an honor system. They don't even have. There's nothing electronic.
So you're partying with people in their garages at that point.
Yeah.
You're getting to know people like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like there is no like
Yeah.
club scene.
Yeah.
No
Because
bar.
you're at my place about 3 nights. The 3 nights we're open, you're over there. It's easy
I am.
for you.
I am. I have been there every night you've been open.
Yeah.
since
Yeah.
I've
Thank
been
you for that. Thank you for that. You've developed friends. You know people.
Yes, I do. I know a lot of people.
Yeah,
there. I know
you
a lot
do.
of local people,
You
and
do.
I know a lot of the other people
Yeah.
that are in my industry that have came and gone.
Yeah.
I've seen people come in and then leave. That
Yeah.
are working on because you have everybody's so specialized. You have like this coating crew. They were staying at the hotel there, and they came in. They were coating some of the above ground facilities that were installed by another company. And I got to know some of them, and most of them were pretty cool. I mean, I say most of them, You got some characters in the
Oh,
crew,
sure,
I mean,
yeah.
So
Sure.
you deal with that, and
Yeah.
it's a cowboy type thing, I
It
mean,
really is.
I've worked, with my company. I've worked some big mainline projects. I did one in South Texas a few years ago that was 142, or actually 152 miles of 42 and 48 inch line.
Wow.
So there's at
it
your
was-
hotel's nothing but that crew.
And here's the deal. So I'm corporate since I'm safety. And when I came in to the company, and I've been with this company 6 years, they told me, they said, look, they said, there's people that get campers in safety, but we don't want that. You're in safety. They said, we're going to pay for your hotel. We're going to give you a company card. You buy your food, get your hotel. Here's your company truck. Buy the fuel, maintenance. Nothing out of your pocket. Because we're going to move you a lot.
Yeah.
And so like the
If
first
we tell you to go somewhere, we need you
and
to be
that's
able to go.
exactly right. The first year I was with this company, I put 76,000 miles on that pickup.
Right.
Because I was in
That's
like
driving.
8 different states the first year, checking on crews. I'd be here for a week, there for 3 weeks, here for 2 days, over there for 1 day, there for a month and a half.
Yeah.
This is a long. So is this a long stint for you?
This is a pretty long stint,
Is it?
for me, yeah. So I stay in hotels. I'm unique. Most of our guys don't have that type of situation. What they get is per diem, so
Right.
they typically get $100 a day. So they'll have a camper.
Yeah, $2,000 a month just for them.
Yeah,
Well, more than that, more than that.
exactly. It's because they get 6 or 7 days a week of per diem.
Yeah.
If we work 6 days a week, they get 7 days, so they get 700 a week. A lot of these guys are making more money than me. Especially like some of the crews, you have some of the laborers that'll live 4 guys in a hotel room, and they'll go down to these motels in Portsmouth and get it for $250 a week. And it's pretty seedy. But they're
making
coming out
money.
of pocket at $75 a week, and they're laying on the floor, But heck, they're sending $600 home cash, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're living pretty good,
Yeah.
What amazed me about just getting to know the guys that I've got to know, coming in. We've got a lot of them. Being right next to the hotel, man, I've seen all kinds of people coming in now.
You've seen it all.
And the money,
Yeah.
is just incredible.
Yeah, some of the people you see because of the hotel, you're going to see the people that are corporate superintendents.
these
and
are just
stuff that
average
making-
guys knocking down $200-300 a year.
Yeah,
I mean-
exactly. Welders.
Yeah.
Whenever in '79, whenever I was out there stringing pipe, if I would have known what the welders make, I might not have came back and went to college.
You might learn how to weld.
Yes, because these guys make money. It is not unusual for a welder to take home $5,000 a week. That's a pipeline welder. So when they talk about knocking these union guys, they're making twice that. They're making $10,000 a week as a welder. And so when they say knocked them out of a job, it's like, dude, these guys have got 4-wheelers, snowmobiles, 2 boats. They got 100 acres. They've got 2 4-wheel drive trucks. Their wife drives an Escalade. They're living in a $400,000 house, and they got a note on all that stuff. What are they going to do? They're going to build solar panels in China, and that's going to pay them now. You know what I mean? So that was kind of a big hit. To hear the comments you've heard lately.
Oh, so they've shut. So did he shut down a lot of your work? The
Well,
president.
yeah. And it's the main lines. It's main.
So
line.
whenever he stopped fracking, that's part of your deal.
It is because as they frack, we have to build pipelines to move that product
To the
transport it,
refinery.
yeah,
to
Yeah.
wherever it's got to go.
I read that this morning. I was trying to brush up. I read that one that just came through here, that big one with the 3 line.
Yeah.
590,000 barrels of crude oil a day is
Yes.
what that thing is pushing out.
Wow.
And so,
590,000.
I know. And the Keystone was 850,000 a day from Canada is what that was going to be pushing. So now, are they going to just stop? Are we not going to do that? No. We're going to move as much as we can through tankers, in trains, and in trucks, and in boats, in ships. So how safe is that compared to under the ground, which we didn't even know existed? And when we come in, and you've seen this, the land looks, when we finish, it looks like a ballpark. It looks like a fairway out
I
there.
can't say that.
Oh, really?
Nope,
Because
we can't.
everything we do, when we leave it, it looks like a golf course.
For about a year.
Well, yeah.
And,
So-
and that's
and I
what I'm
don't know.
seeing. Yeah,
Yeah.
now I'm not unhappy about it, but I will say that like the finish work or the boutique work at the end could have been a little bit better. They left a pretty good hump in my driveway. I'd had to knock that out.
Yeah, and see, that's baloney because
But there was a big ordeal with me. We kind of fought about it for a little while. I had to go through like what they call it, the Indiana bat.
I don't
Sir,
know.
oh man, this is what goes on before you get there. So they sent out a bat surveyor, and they wanted to. I came home like several different times. I'd come home, and I'd come home from work or whatever, or go home at lunch, whatever. There'd be 3 or 4 people standing in my pasture, and I didn't know that they was coming. So,
Wow.
so you know, I all I asked was whenever this started, so I've got livestock. And at the time, I had this little donkey. It was meaner than hell out there. and I asked him. I said, "Fellas," I said, "I don't mind you being here, but I said I just think it's kind of customary that you probably should have told me."
Yeah.
And what they'll say is, "Oh, well, we contacted. Is this the owner?" And it's always the owner before you.
It
know,
is.
whatever. And it's like that's their scapegoat.
Yeah.
You know. And I'm like, I said, "No, that's that. Oh, well, we've been trying." And no, okay, well, so and I asked him. I said. So if that donkey would kick you or bite you, I said, who's liable for that? And they said, well, you are as the property owner. And I said, well, that's all I need to know. I said, we're going to have to figure this out.
Yeah, that's
And we did, and I got paid.
and
they'll
we've
strike
paid
a check.
handsomely.
Yeah,
I mean, I know
yeah.
these clients we work for. We've done anomalies.
Yeah. Well, there was
went and
pasture
dug 20
that,
feet of land up and paid them $30,000
Yeah.
to be in there for a week.
well,
you know?
and in my defense, they had me kind of land. Once they come through you got to realize it ain't like that goes in there and jogs off to the right, and you can still use that over there.
Yeah.
Whenever they come through you, they cut your property in half, and you really can't even get to the other side.
no,
Till
no.
they're done.
No.
unless you can find a way around and come back
Yeah,
in
yeah.
because they're coming straight across you. So it is an inconvenience
Oh,
as
it's
a landowner.
huge. Yeah, if you're laying mainline pipe, it's a big deal.
You know, so I went through all that, but they do an Indiana bat survey. That they do. I had a group of archaeologists was the ones that broke the camel's back.
Oh.
And I just came out one day and they were digging holes all over my property and didn't even tell me that they was coming.
What?
Yeah. So that's what you saw. I mean, I'm not hating on it. I'm just saying, I mean, you know, that's some of the if you ever see a mad landowner, you just got to kind of understand he's went through a couple years already.
Well, and I understand that.
Yeah.
You know, and we deal with that. And as a safety man, I'm kind of the
You're away from bad a little bit, right?
No, I'm the opposite. I'm kind of the political guy. you know?
Oh, okay. You have to
Because
deal with
since
some of
I'm
those
not,
issues.
I'm not one of the laborers or operators on
Yeah,
piece
yeah.
of equipment or welders.
They
or
catch you in a truck, they're going to come chew your
Well, I'm the guy that's kind of the go-between because I'm clean and, you know.
Yeah.
I
and
mean,
they'll be like, hey, man, Sandy, we need you to go address this. Or
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and that's when I go to the client, you know, I go, hey, Mr., Enbridge or TransCanada, hey, we got an issue here. The landowner's saying such and such.
Yeah.
I don't want it to come to that because what I'm saying is my company's not doing right,
Yeah.
so I try to fix it in between. If the landowner comes and says there's an issue here, I go to the superintendent and I say, okay, here's the problem. We need to fix this before this issue goes up to the client level. You know what I mean?
right,
Because
right.
we don't want it to go there. So you come to me and you say, hey, blah, blah, blah. And I say, whoa,
Yeah.
that is a safety issue, and that's a big problem.
Yeah.
So we've got to address that. We can't have that. Liability, whoa,
Then
that's
they're
a big
your buddy.
flag. Hey,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Then they're your,
so all
yeah.
of a sudden now I've got the backing and I've got the power to stop things and make things happen the way it's supposed to happen.
Yeah. And now I will say they were easy to deal with. I'm just saying maybe, and this was a third party that came in, did all the work. I won't mention their names, but they did all the work on mine. One group just came in, they did a section, and they were easy to work with. But just the way that it looked, there was just some not holes, but just some low spots I thought could have been better. But I'm kind of picky, But I got my tractor, so I went back. They left a little hump in my driveway, but they probably thought it would settle, stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah.
it does look like a golf course for about a year, and then it's just as good as you want to treat it.
Well, and like where we're at now, we did less than 3,000 feet of repair on some lines.
Sure.
And we're going in there and doing a mile and a half of driveway, basically. It's a half mile of driveway of the landowner, and then it's another mile of road that's an old logging road that goes up to his land.
So you'll
and
leave
other
that in
people.
better shape.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've smoothed it. We've fixed the ruts.
You got to look.
Put
Mine was through
gravel
my
down,
front
we
yard.
spread gravel.
Mine was through my front yard. If that's through a section of pasture or something, 30 acres behind me, it's going to look great.
Exactly.
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 Whenever it's 25 feet from your front door, it gets a lot of action.
I've had some friends that actually would not allow them, not for any amount of money, to even touch their property. They made them reroute the pipeline around them because of what you're saying.
Well, it got to
And
that
was
point
like-
with me. I offered them to buy my house.
Yeah.
I said, hey, if you want all this, I said, just buy the whole place, and I priced them the whole place.
And what'd they say?
They wrote me another check. They didn't buy the place, but they wrote the check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Helped that bottom line, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean it did, but I mean
He wasn't so worried about the front yard at that point. Yeah.
well, hell, for about a month you had to call them and tell them when you was coming home to get in and out of the driveway.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Because they
Yes, I totally get that.
they
Yeah,
had the
we
whole
cut it
driveway
off.
shut off.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
mean it was like, hey guys, this is a pain in the ass for me.
And
Like,
they'd have to put down like a
They'd put a- they-
metal
road
thing.
plates.
Yeah, they
roll
put them
plate.
road plates down,
Yeah.
and I mean, so let's say I was coming home and let my dog out, and all I needed was to my driveway for
It's
about
like,
15
oh,
minutes.
God,
I mean,
this guy here,
Yeah.
man, what the?
yeah. So it was. I told her, this amount, I'll leave you alone,
Yeah.
and they did
It's
it.
like, we got you, bud. We'll take care of it.
Yeah.
They knew where I was going. They'd done this before. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, I would guess that those guys get pretty accustomed.
They
to-
knew what they was doing.
I mean, and I imagine there's a whole division of these companies that handle.
Yes.
Yeah.
The-
Oh, yeah.
the-
And
you know.
I mean, the land guy, and I say, yeah, I love the fact his job of how he gets to stay, but he gets more crap than everybody
Oh
else.
boy, I'll bet.
Well, whenever the guy showed up, and I've actually become friends with him.
Okay,
Whenever
yeah.
because he was here he came back. So this was 4 or 5 years ago, 3 or 4. I don't know when it was. 4 years ago, probably 5. Well, then this next time he comes back, and I see him at the bar.
Wow.
Well, he stays here for 3 or 4 months. He's gone now, but I said, hey, I know you, and he was the guy that came and wrote the check.
And he remembered.
And he
you, didn't
remembered me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I said, hey, because as soon as he got out of his truck, he said, what's it going to take? And I said, I've already sent the number.
Yeah.
And he said, all right. But I mean, he knew. That's what they do, you know, because they'll keep you in check.
Yeah.
They're not going to let you get too far. I think that there's actually a number out there. What is it? I heard around $40 a foot.
I don't know.
I think
I've always
it's been to court so many times.
That it's almost kind of
Now
laid
it's a
out.
commodity.
Like, yeah.
It's on the spreadsheet.
Yeah, the
Let me
court-
open my Excel here.
Well, it looks like, this is as high as the courts will go.
Yeah.
And we've fought it out enough times.
Yeah.
They know.
You know,
I think
yeah,
it's
yeah.
$40 a foot.
It's like workman's comp.
Oh,
same
absolutely.
thing,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And that's basically what they'll tell you. They'll say, okay, here's what it's going for. If you look up, Reynolds versus Gillum, and,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
2012,
Oh, yeah.
it went
Yeah.
for $40 a foot. So hey, if you want to spend a lawyer to get this much, you can. But here's what
It's-
we'll give you this today.
Right now.
Yeah.
When
And depending on if you have livestock or not, that they have to account for that.
Every cow is a prize cow. It just won blue ribbon.
Oh,
last
heck
year.
yeah.
Oh,
I'll
my
bet.
horses is grand, or
Yeah,
world
oh,
champions.
yeah.
Grand champs at
Can't
the
have that
Kentucky
snow
Derby.
fence. I can't. I told her, I said, the snow fence ain't gonna work.
Yeah. We can't
No,
do
we
that.
paid
Yeah.
a lot of money.
You
I
bought
spent
me
a
a
lot
round
of
pin.
money on them cattle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you bought me a round pin.
Really, was it a $30,000 cow? I want to eat some of that. That's got to be some tender beef.
Yeah. So you do it like this always? Do you typically go into a hotel right next to a bar and try to, or a restaurant or something?
I typically go to Holiday Inn. So I mean, I've got
That used to be one.
way over 1 million points at
Comforting.
Holiday Inn. So
Yeah.
like me and my wife went to Grand Canyon. We never went to Grand Canyon. We went there 4 months ago. The whole trip, round trip, whole week, cost me $75.
Yeah, boy. I
You do the
I
same
do the
thing.
same thing. I use Marriott properties.
I have
So-
Marriott, Hilton,
Yeah.
Holiday Inn,
Yeah.
Best Western, and now Choice, which
Yeah.
is
This one,
quality.
yeah.
you know.
Well, when I first started, the first company I worked for, we did a lot of Holiday Inns. It was called at that time. What's their club? The little blue
IHG.
card I see. Yes,
it's
yeah.
International Hotels.
Yep. And
International Hotel Group.
yep. And then then I switched to Marriott because that's where all my company was staying. So I thought, well, they've got like 4 or 5 different brands. I mean, you can spend whatever.
I think
you
more
know.
like 15.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
That's where I'm going to stay on my way home. There's a Town Place Inn there
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Texarkana, which I'm going to stay. It's a 2-bedroom suite.
Oh yeah, those
And
are
it
nice.
wasn't too bad, you know.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah.
like it's pretty good. And I got to take a guy with me that one of the laborers, and
Yeah.
it's like, he's going to have his own room this
You ride
way.
together anyway.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like okay.
When are you
after
leaving, Sandy?
30 days, Friday morning.
Oh, no
Yeah.
kidding. Well, we need to have you a going away party.
Well, hope, and if I don't leave Thursday, because it depends on,
Weather?
well, I think the weather's going to play a part, and I am going to leave Friday because I don't think we're going to be finished in time because it's going to be hard to finish up all we're doing now is fixing up where we're parked and his driveway.
And that's it.
That's what we're down to.
Okay.
So, and, this is down to,
Yeah.
it's almost no sense in me driving up there. I'm going to have to park on the side of the highway.
Well,
and
Thursday
stay on the
night,
way.
dinner's on me and beer.
Sounds like a winner,
All
man.
right. You come on in. Yeah, you come on in.
Yeah.
You've been a good one, man. You've like you said, you've been there every day we've been open.
Oh, I love the place.
Yeah.
I love
yeah.
the place.
You've got
And
to know Cheyenne, you and her's big buddies.
Yeah, and if y'all haven't been there, Stockroom 601.
Oh, yeah. Well, tell us.
down here on
Good.
Main
Come
Street.
see
let's- let's-
Great
yeah,
place,
yeah.
man. You can't beat it.
Now,
for
What
people.
drew you there, Sandy? Do you are you a pool player or are you?
you are a pool player.
I am a pool player, and
Okay.
they've got a lot of great beers. And
Yeah, oh, yeah.
and the beer special, that I've done.
Yeah.
The entertainment, which is finally coming back.
Man,
there's
I
so
tried.
many things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
we're just
can't
getting
beat
going.
it.
Last night was good, wasn't it?
This is the only place in town where you can go and you have all this stuff,
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody offers this. So many towns I stay in, they don't offer something like this.
Yeah.
And so thank God y'all
Alan,
exist.
Alan
Well,
tells
and
me the
how
same thing.
easy is it? You're right there at the hotel.
Oh, and
you
that's the
walk
other
across
thing.
the parking
Yeah.
lot.
It took me it took the first week. I didn't realize y'all even because I went over there, man. I arrived on a Tuesday and I went over there that night. I was like, what?
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
That's just,
I mean-
we used to be 6 days a week.
Yeah, and I was like,
and
wow.
COVID hit.
And I didn't know. So, I missed the first weekend I was there because I didn't know you were open Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then I found out because the girl at the front desk finally told me, she said, oh, yeah, we got these coupons for next door. They're open Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Why didn't you tell me that when I checked in?
Yeah.
We need to do a better job of hitting that hotel.
Yeah.
Because, people, I always picture myself, what if me and Mindy went into a hotel and there was just a great bar and live music and everything right next door,
People don't even know it exists.
Yeah.
they
Dude,
don't know.
when I'm traveling, if I can find a place where there's like a restaurant or a bar or something
yeah.
like that, where I don't have to get back in the car.
Oh, yeah, you're
That's the whole thing right
You
there,
know.
Chad.
Yep.
Is the fact that I can come home from work because I've been out there.
Yeah,
The
oh, yeah,
shift is
yeah.
10 hours already.
Oh, yeah,
so,
yeah.
I get back to the hotel and it's like, look, I don't want to be in my truck. I don't want to drive anywhere.
no.
And
Yeah.
the other side of that is I'm in a company truck and I can't drink.
That's
and
what most of
drive.
them are. Yeah, they're in company. Yeah, that's
So
what,
if
that's
I
why
go
we
down
get
here
back
to
that.
XYZ,
Well,
I can't really have a drink. You know what I mean? I'm
No,
gonna
and
drink
if-
a
and
tea.
Even going
and
up to La Rosa's to use probably, you got to think about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean,
it's, it's not
and-
very far, but still,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
you gotta
if you're in a larger city or something, you can Uber and stuff if you want to. But there's some
Exactly.
minutia involved with that as well.
exactly.
The way I look at it, if I can pull into a place at the end of the day and not start my car until the next day,
You're good.
and that's
where
why
I
I've
need to
stayed
be,
in a
man.
lot of Hilton Garden Inns.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah,
for
they
that
have
right
that.
there.
They've got their own restaurant and bar.
Most of them do, yes.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so the exact thing. I don't have to leave the hotel.
No.
You know?
Yeah, I don't even have to put my jacket on if I'm there.
Exactly. You can just walk downstairs and have a drink and eat. and
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm back to the
It's
resort.
like a resort.
Oh yeah. Marriott Spring Hill Suites are moving that way now. The COVID thing has kind of slowed them down a little bit, but they were just launching. I know they were doing it to compete with Garden Inn.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Man, I stayed at a Garden Inn last Saturday. Was $70.
Oh yeah, man. The
Really?
rates
In
right now are
in
crazy.
Polaris.
They are low, yeah.
I stayed at a Courtyard Marriott for it was, I believe, 68.
Golly, where the
I mean,
heck
it was
that?
in Worthington, Ohio, man. I mean, I didn't pay for it, my
Yeah.
company, but still, it's like, I mean,
the
man.
rates are down. Yeah,
Wow.
exactly.
Is this your first? That scotches.
Hey, you guys are savages throwing
is
that
funny.
back. Yeah, yeah.
Scotch. Would you like a wee
Not,
dram?
this is
Yeah,
this is. I only drink up here pretty much. I don't have too many beers at the bar. I did last night.
Yeah.
I didn't have too many, but I had a couple Busch lattes last night. That on draft, it was just so smooth.
It's delicious.
Off camera, I'll tell you what one of my guys said about Busch Light.
Chad about drank us out of main lunch the other night.
Yeah,
Friday
we
night.
tried, yeah.
Friday
I
night.
would
We
love to
did.
try
We
it. I'm gonna
did
have
drink
to
you
try
guys.
it.
Yeah, you got to try that.
So
Buzz.
Friday
Hope
night,
I'm here
Chad-
Thursday night. So
Chad was sitting up by the stage Friday
Yeah,
night whenever
yeah.
you were in there. Did you see
really?
that big old crowd of people up there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was those guys.
That was us. Yeah,
Oh,
we were up there.
okay.
We drank them out of Miller Lite.
I went and got some for
I
Saturday.
can understand
did
that.
you?
Yeah. That's my drink of choice is Miller Lite.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it really? See,
yeah.
I argued with them, and it doesn't sell very good.
No. I like that. It's just that it's not on special, so I can't
Yeah.
drink a bunch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, that Busch Light $2 draft. That's
You can't beat it.
Can't beat
you know,
that.
and then whenever it switched to PBR, guess what? That's my favorite beer.
Oh yeah. You shot pool all night last night, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, so-
As soon as the first two people came in and grabbed a table, I grabbed a table because I knew my guys were going to come in, and
Man, we got a full lineup
That-
for February. I hate you're gonna miss it, man.
I
We got comedy
I
coming
know,
back. We
I
got
know.
all that stuff coming back.
and that does kind of stink. 'Cause,
Yeah.
I mean, I've grown to like the people.
Man,
I like the place.
I got a good friend of mine, Arizona Tom, and he came in just like you. He was here about 4 or 5 months, and me and him just became buddies. And I sent him. We text about once a month. I'll say what, and he left here 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean we just
Well, now
became,
that's got to be one of the tough portions of your job.
It
Sandy.
is, because of
because
this
like
right here.
because you're living in a town for
you'll probably
weeks,
never be here again, will
months.
you?
Probably not.
Yeah, yeah.
I know, and I have to tell people, hey, have a great life, and they're like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, no. And I'm like, yeah, that's how it is.
That's pretty much how it works. Yeah,
Because I mean, I've made some really good friends in a lot of towns where
Oh,
I've been
yeah.
there for months, and it was funny when we did that big project I told you in South Texas. They gave me a budget. They said, look, this is going to be a 1.5 to 2 year project, and so instead of a month by month or week by week, go down there. You're in Brownsville. You've got an office down there, so go down there and find a place. Here's your budget, and it was $2,500 a month for living expenses. I was like, so I looked at Google Maps. And I was like, okay, my office is 15 minutes from South Padre Island. I looked up, what do we got on South Padre Island? I was living in a condo on the beach, 6th floor, literally looking at the beach every day for a year. I was just sitting up there going, this is the life, man.
I love my job.
And my company's paid for it.
Yeah.
3 bedroom,
Yeah.
3 bath. I mean,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
like, what?
Yeah,
You gotta
yeah.
be kidding me. man.
Yeah.
Big
That's
old
awesome.
balcony up there. Every day I'd come home from work, I'd put on my sandals and put on my shorts, and I'd walk down to the beach, and there was a bar 3 miles either way, a bar restaurant. And I would just walk
on the
down
beach, yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
I'd
you're
sit
not.
there and watch volleyball and stuff. Yeah, this is great.
Yeah. It's like, man, how did I get this job? This
I
is
know.
great. Yeah.
I know. And then for that moment in time,
Tyler's probably back here applying for a job right now.
for that moment in time, you say, I got the best job in the world.
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
say, guess what? You're going to Ohio.
Yeah, next week you'll be in Jackson, Ohio. Yeah.
Was this your first trip to Ohio?
No.
Okay.
I actually did a lot of training up here last year. I was doing a training program where I would come in and do
In Jackson?
not in Jackson. It was in Portsmouth.
Okay.
It was crews working in Kentucky
Yeah.
and Ohio.
Okay.
And so I was flying around the country and,
Yeah.
and doing these training sessions. So I'd be one day here, one day there, and one day there. And I was just flying and renting and
Yeah.
flying and
Yeah.
and just doing these sessions because I'm an OSHA outreach instructor, and I
Okay.
do a lot of training for my company in a lot of different aspects.
Yeah.
And so I'd been up here before. I'd seen Columbus. I hated it. The traffic.
I see close. I hated it.
Yeah. It's a great town. It sucks, but I like it.
Man, if you're coming out of Houston, I get it.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, the Midwest is just it's different. I mean,
is.
You know,
but at the same time, when you're coming to the Ohio State,
Oh, yeah,
it's
buddy.
that was kind of. I mean, that was kind of a big deal. I was I was in awe,
Really?
because
Yeah.
it's like this is the.
Did you see the shoe?
Ohio
Yeah.
State.
You see the shoe?
No, I did not.
You didn't see the shoe?
No.
You'll see it on. Well, you're driving, aren't you?
Yeah.
You won't. Yeah, you're,
I'm just driving from here, go straight across the line, and
Yeah.
then through Tennessee. and-
Yeah. You won't see it on the way home. Yeah, the shoes. It's something to see.
Yeah,
you
that
probably
big
you
horseshoe.
saw. I'm surprised you didn't see it in Columbus. Hell, you can't miss it.
Yeah, but I was going from the airport to Portsmouth as fast as I could
Yep,
get
so
through
he went
town.
straight down. He wouldn't have
You
gone
you
that
weren't. You weren't 10 minutes away from it though.
Yeah, and and what's funny is it just depends on your landing pattern if you flew into Columbus, because like if depends on what way the wind's blowing that day. If you're landing from the west to east, you'll fly right over the stadium.
Wow.
Yeah. Right.
And I probably flew over the stadium, but I mean,
Maybe
I'm looking at the stadium. It's like, oh my God, there's the stadium.
Yeah.
Because it is. I mean, these are the Ohio State.
Yeah. It's a recognizable one. Yeah. Sooners, man. Yeah.
Sooners, Alabama. Miami. You're talking about some powerhouses.
Oh,
So you guys look at, so it's not just an Ohio thing that Ohio State's a powerhouse.
Well,
what you're saying.
I mean, oh my God.
Yeah.
I've been following, football for my whole life. I was the third leading scorer in my county.
Yeah.
Shit.
So, and the only reason I didn't score higher was because I had to flu one night against a weaker team, and I missed 2 touchdowns I should have had.
Yeah.
So it's like I should have been the. So football's been a big deal. I mean,
Chad went to Marshall.
Did you really?
Oh yeah. You ever hear of the Thundering Herd, man?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, I
yeah,
have.
yeah.
Yeah.
Had
That's
Byron
a big
Leftwich,
deal.
Chad Pennington, all came out of Marshall.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Hey,
Hey, no, that's a big deal. I never got to play college ball, and I wanted to so bad. I went to a college and interviewed, and they were like, "Well, you got a family."
You're a dad.
Yes,
You're
the coach was.
You're a dad of a kindergartner.
Yeah,
You know what though?
I mean, the coach was
now,
kinda
man. I mean, now that's no big deal, man. I mean, that's
back then it was a big deal.
Yeah,
They were like,
yeah.
we need to put some meat on your bones.
Yeah.
Did the last time I was in Houston, I tell you, I was really excited, and then when I got there, I felt so old.
What was this?
As a childhood, sports nut. And so the last time I went, I decided that I was going to go a day early, and I wanted to see Houston.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to see Houston. I thought I'm just going to drive around Houston all day. I wanted to go get a Whataburger.
Yeah.
And I thought I'm just going to go check out Houston. So I go to the thing, and some of the bitches, they talked me into a Cadillac. So I rented a Cadillac for the week.
Yeah.
Thought, hell with it. We're going to go on a cruise to Houston.
Yeah.
So I'm by myself, man. I'm landing.
We're going to do it right.
I'm landing. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm going.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's me all the time.
So, and I even flew out a day early at like 6 a.m.
So you had a full day.
So I had a full day.
I do the same thing.
Yeah. So I go out there, and I was like, man, I got to see the Astrodome.
Well, they blew it up, didn't they?
Well, they may have by now.
I don't know.
But
No, they have not.
It's still there.
It's been a big it's a battle. It's a big battle.
Okay.
Yeah.
so I go down to the Astrodome, and I'm
factions.
thinking I'm going to see this mammoth of this,
And then you see the stadium
And then I see the stadium next to it, which is what the
Reliance
PNC
Stadium?
Reliance-
Where the Texans play.
and it looks like it just shit out a little rabbit turd.
I know.
And that's the
And that's the
Astrodome.
Astrodome.
That is so
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
Because I think the same thing.
And I'm like, you mean that's the Astrodome? I was like,
because I
shit.
used to be in the Astrodome.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
back in
Everybody
the
was.
90s,
It's probably one of the most, like in the 70s and 80s, that was like one of the most famous buildings in
Oh,
sports.
it's
it looks
70s,
condemned
90s.
now.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't
It is. Well, yeah, because nothing goes on there. I mean, they do some little things.
They said that they'll have like some painting festivals.
they try to keep it relevant.
Yeah.
Because it's been a big battle, I mean,
Yeah.
there's one of the judges was trying to keep it relevant, and everybody's going, "We're spending millions for what?"
Yeah.
You tore down. The,
What kind of events did they have there?
like little festival, like not festivals, but like let's say the
Does it still
Pee Wee
have like a
team or
football
something.
field? Yeah, like do any high schools play there or anything?
No.
like there was literally a chain link fence all the way around it whenever I was
Yeah.
Oh, so it was yeah.
and I mean this is a place that whenever you heard something was at the Astrodome.
Oh my. Yeah.
And they had Astro World, and they tore it down because they had these big plans, and that was in 2007, and then the market crashed, and now it's nothing.
yeah.
It's
It's
like,
just
really?
Texas-
That was the claim to fame. That's what we all love. That's what we're hurting about.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, we lost the Oilers. That hurt.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
when you tore down, Astro World, you killed us, man. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
Houston, they ripped our hearts out with that.
Now did it
was a big
did
deal.
it heal a little bit when they brought the Texans in?
It did, yes.
Like did people jump on that quick? I mean,
Yes, most of us did.
all the Oiler fans were like, "Okay, man, Texans."
Yeah, I'd say
let's
most
go.
of us did.
It's the number one tech city in the world, isn't it?
Austin.
Austin is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's big in Houston.
Yeah,
the
it
tech
is big.
business.
San Antonio, Austin, and Houston, but it's Austin first, and I think San Antonio and Houston
Okay, yeah.
next. But
Man.
yeah,
I couldn't believe just the feeling of how big things are.
it's crazy.
It really is. It's just a feeling. I mean, it's
And
just,
the even crazier part is the judge that made so many decisions for us last year is this very wise, very educated 29-year-old female.
But she
That sounds so
but-
sexist.
But she loves the Astrodome.
She does not.
Okay.
She has no care for. She doesn't care for nothing. She just wants to be,
That's your governor?
in charge. No, she's the county judge in charge of
Oh, okay.
5 million people.
Yeah.
And
oh wow.
making these decrees.
What is
Yeah.
the population of Houston?
about 5 million?
5 million.
5 million.
Yeah, somewhere in that.
Well, I thought,
It depends on if you're talking about metropolitan or Houston City
well, hell, I
proper.
thought Columbus was like 11.
I don't know. I don't.
If you're talking about Houston and surrounding areas, then you get up into those kind of numbers.
Yeah,
but,
you're
you
10
know.
to 12 million probably
Well,
if you include
yeah, I don't
the
know
suburbs.
I don't know what you do about. I don't know what there's. I bet Franklin County.
Yeah, well, no, Columbus is really one of the most
Yeah.
rapid growing cities in the United States.
Yeah, what they say?
it really?
40,000 people moved there a month.
Yeah, it's
or a
it,
week
yeah,
or something.
It
yeah.
is host to the Ohio State.
Yeah, you've got you've got the university, you've got the limited brands, and it's like we're the warehouse hub of the Midwest is
Yeah.
Columbus, Ohio.
913,000
Of what?
population.
The
in
city of Columbus, 913,000.
That's all.
Yeah.
Now do call that a mill.
Yeah.
Now do
Yeah.
Houston's.
So Houston 5 mil, that would make sense.
It's 4 to 5.
I was going to say,
6.
there's no way Columbus is competing with Houston.
No. It's not nearly as
Yeah,
big.
I've been to Houston. And
What
it's
was that
just
there, producer?
mammoth.
I mean, it's the same thing as like what you're dealing with in Nashville.
6.3 million.
In
Okay.
Houston.
Yeah.
And
I'm
what's
a little off.
in Nashville?
Probably about 2.
Yeah, it's just now it hadn't been growing for as long. I don't think.
It's hot though.
1.2 million.
1.2.
Oh, that's
kicking.
lower than what I thought.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, you watch.
you
it.
get to see
in
them all,
2
don't
years,
you?
it'll be
Yeah,
2
yeah,
million.
Yeah.
When you going to
yeah.
retire?
That's not going to happen.
You're not going to retire?
Well, I don't see it happening because my company doesn't offer retirement, and
So when you're done, you're done. You ain't got no income.
yeah, that's pretty well it.
Well,
I
you're
mean, stocks.
You're
you know,
funding it, right?
Huh?
I'm sure you're funding it. You're funding your own retirement. If
Well,
not,
yeah,
we need to talk.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing. I put a lot in 401k,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I didn't get started early enough. Actually, I got started early, and then I cashed it in to run the web hosting business.
Sure,
and that
sure.
was a mistake, huge mistake.
Oh, I get it. Yeah.
You know, I wish I would have had that back. Hindsight, all that.
Well,
Yeah.
hey man, we could all make that. We
Yeah.
could all make those declarations.
but I
I've
mean,
done the same
I'm
thing.
doing, and then I got to looking over the last couple of years about stock markets and stuff, and I don't know, and I not trying to plug them, but Motley Fool, if y'all have ever seen that.
Yeah.
So I finally caved in and gave the $99 to join them last year. I invested $10,700. That's up to over $30,000 now, based
Wow.
off of
Man,
their
I did
That's a hell of an
really-
endorsement.
I did really well last year.
and I
in the
was like,
stock
oh my
market.
God, I should have put 100,000
Yeah.
into it.
Did you buy any GameStop stock?
No, I did not, and I wish I would have. I'm looking at AMC because they're
Yeah,
on
they're
the
doing the same
trend right
thing.
now,
Yeah, I
so
know,
I'm looking
I
at
know.
that.
What happened
Yeah.
with that? Hey, but boys, I have
Selling
deleted.
short.
Yeah,
It's what
Reddit.
it is.
I
Reddit. There's a bunch of guys on Reddit
Okay.
basically came up with an idea to kind of screw with the hedge fund guys, man. And
So artificially,
yeah, they basically short squeezed, meaning they
now-
just artificially inflated the stock price
They-
by buying a bunch.
because the hedge funds had shorted it already.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
what you do is you buy short. Is what
Yeah.
to me is they say shorted. They never say
Yeah.
actually. Nobody
Yeah.
has ever explained it.
Yeah.
They say they shorted it. The hedge fund shorted.
Yeah.
What you do is you buy short.
Yeah.
Because you have to sell. So
Right.
what you do is you buy short,
You're
and then
buying
when
cheap.
it drops, you sell. And now you've sold at a lower price, and so you made the
You
profit
keep the
in
difference
between.
because more or less what you're doing when you're buying it at that lower level, you're essentially borrowing that stock.
No, he's saying
from-
buying it at
You
a higher
no,
level.
you sell. I'm saying you sell short.
Yeah, you sell it cheap.
You've sold it. You don't even own it. It's
Yeah.
one of those
Okay.
weird things.
That's
Okay.
what the hedge funds.
Okay.
It's
so explain this to
$100.
me.
It's $100. I sell a $100 stock. It just dropped to 150. Now I'm going to buy it. I just made $50. So you sell short and you buy long. So
So
these
who's-
hedge
who-
funds said, look, they're losing money, so we're just going to sell short on it, banking on it to go down to zero, and
Wait
then
till
we're
it
going to
bottoms
cash
out.
out,
Yeah.
and we're going to take all the profit. And Reddit said, wait a minute, if 1 million of us or more buy it, the price will go
We'll
up,
screw the hedge fund.
and then they don't get their profit from selling short. Instead, we just made profit from buying long.
They basically found a way to profit off of what the hedge fund game has been.
Let's go back here. Let's go back.
This is a mall. This is a
How
a
do you
deep
how do you,
subject.
how do you okay? And I'm pretty numbers guy here.
You do it with volume. I mean,
Okay, let's go back to let's dumb this thing down to $100. Okay, so you're saying, so what happens in this scenario? Who buys at 100 and who sells at 50?
okay,
It's
it
not
starts
exactly
with the
a
hedge
who.
fund. Yeah.
Okay, so the hedge fund is managing
They-
all
they-
of the
they-
funds.
They target a company.
Okay,
or a
hang
stock.
on. Hedge fund is managing all of GameStop's money, is what you're saying?
No, they're trying to. They're short selling their stocks.
They're just buying their stock. They're just cornering the
Okay,
market.
so the hedge fund
They're
just
spotting-
owns stock.
They're spotting trends in the market.
Okay, so
where
that-
they feel like they can buy, and then they might see a stock that they feel is maybe a bit overvalued.
So
that
it's
they
at
can
100.
bring down.
So they'll buy a
and
bunch
sell.
of it.
No, they sell a bunch
They
of
sell it.
They don't own it,
Yeah, they're borrowing
but they
it.
sell. You can get in the market as
They're like a
sell
broker.
short.
Okay. Okay.
So you sell short on something you don't even own,
Yeah,
but you promise to buy it back.
at the end of the cycle.
I'm going to sell this.
sell
Now,
this for
now
you.
I've gave you a ticket that says it's sold, and I will buy it back. And then when it comes back, it's worth less, so I buy it back, and now you owe me the difference, which is however much it dropped.
yeah. Okay. So they played the basically it's like a future.
It is exactly
Yeah, that's
that.
exactly
That's
what
exactly
the
what it
future
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a futures option.
It's a futures option. Yeah.
Yeah.
I went through all that testing.
But what they, but
didn't
what
need
they,
it, so I
but
didn't get it.
what these guys on Reddit did, man, is they got together and basically
They-
came up with a scheme
To artificially drive
to
the price.
artificially,
Okay.
I mean,
Because if
they,
you
they
start
targeted it.
buying,
yeah,
If you start buying in huge
yeah.
volumes,
well then all of a sudden,
because the hedge
it's-
funds
yeah.
can do that. They can buy in a volume,
And that's why
that
they
drives
normally
the
win,
price up.
because
Yeah.
they've got a bottomless pit of money to buy stuff with. Well, they got enough people together
that they
to
made themselves
inflate
a
the
hedge
stock
fund.
value.
Exactly
Yeah,
is what
yes,
they
they
did.
kind of switched
They became
hats.
a hedge fund.
Yes, just in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
So who did that? And I
Just a bunch of dudes.
Okay,
on
just
Reddit.
just a bunch
Like
of
they
dudes.
got-
Who knows
got-
who they are?
I mean,
I've
they're,
never
they're
been
pretty,
on
they're
Reddit.
pretty
I know
smart.
about it,
Yeah,
but-
I mean, it was a
okay,
pretty
so,
smart group.
So they do that, and then they're not affiliated with GameStop at all. They just played against
No.
the hedge fund.
They picked
Who
that
cares?
out.
Who cares
and
who this company is? I don't
Yeah.
even know who this
Yeah.
company.
Yeah.
So I do day trading in S&P 500. Same thing. I don't know who any of these companies are. It's just an index fund. It's a futures.
it's
it's
a
an
number.
options.
It's a
And
number.
so it's the same type of thing. I'll sell short.
Yep.
Buy long. I make the money in between.
Yeah. And they saw they basically look at the market for what would be a good target for whatever they're trying to do.
Do you think this will
Yeah.
be a new regulation, or is this just another?
They
just a new play?
can't.
No, I don't think they can regulate it because there's
If they do, they're going to shut down the whole
it's
market
too
system.
big to fail because these
Yeah.
hedge funds have become really really big.
And this whole system that we're talking about is too big. It's just
Yeah.
that they found an exploitation.
They did, and I don't know that it's going to be repeatable because the hedge funds have so much darn money.
No.
man.
They're not going to do this again. They're not going
Right.
to put themselves in this corner.
no, they won't.
So
Yeah,
now
yeah.
they've seen the exploitation
Right,
that's happened.
right,
This is
right.
the same as having a crack in
Yeah.
a server, or having your operating system has got
Yeah.
an exploitation where somebody can hack in, and you blocked it.
Yeah.
And the same type of thing. Now the hedge funds and
It's
the
gonna be
stock
like,
market
ooh.
and regulators are like, whoa.
Yeah,
whoa,
we
whoa,
might
wait.
fasten our seatbelt
That's what
now.
I'm saying. Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
it was kind of a hey.
So
man.
social media
Yeah.
can destroy this system.
Yeah.
We have to shut that down. So
Right.
it's going to be kind of
Okay.
like the
Yeah.
everything else we're
Yeah.
seeing now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to shut it down.
That's
No-
what. There's where it
yeah.
gets into what I asked. Is it going to bring on regulations? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, in an odd way.
It'll
I
change
just
things. It'll
Trust me.
change
Whenever you
things.
move the major needle, you
Yeah.
bring on regulations.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Somebody will take it on the chin once. They won't
Yeah.
take it on the chin.
well,
twice.
and they're big.
If they're in control,
Well, and
and you don't know who
you're
is
also
anymore.
you're talking about big Wall Street here, man.
yeah.
I mean, that's where the money is.
I didn't know anything about it. I hadn't even seen it. The only thing I've seen is a couple memes
Yeah, oh yeah,
because hey, still off. Ain't logged on, boys.
yeah, yeah.
I haven't logged on.
Yeah.
I got off Facebook about 12 days ago, and I haven't logged on since.
I have artificially banned myself from Facebook.
Okay.
But today I did get on, and when I would come across my son-in-law's stuff, I would move real fast because I didn't want to read it
Yeah.
because of their
Beliefs.
Yeah.
beliefs.
Well, see,
and
we
policies.
Hey, you know what, man? Honest to God, I can't tell you what this has done for me. Like as far as I don't know anything. And as far as like I don't know any of this artificial garbage that
Well,
I
see,
don't
I'm
need
on-
to know.
Well, see, like I'm on Facebook, but like I guess I don't use Facebook for my news source, man.
Well, I'm not talking news, but
Oh,
I'm saying
no.
I didn't either. But like what I'm seeing, like people that like I didn't even. Truthfully, I hate to say this on here, but I mean I was looking at people's stuff. Some of them that I didn't even like.
Yeah.
But they're just on my feed, and I
Yeah.
mean, rather than like saying, "Oh, I'm just going to get rid of them," I still saw their stuff, and it was secretly pissing me off.
It was bothering you.
It
You didn't
really
even
was,
realize
and I
it.
didn't even realize it. And so
Yeah.
now I'm not the hell, man. It's kind of brought me back to where I was 20 years ago.
I
It's kinda
kind of
nice.
like the way you did it in the fact too. Like you kept your account,
Yeah,
but it's just not on your phone.
yeah. It's not on my phone, which
Man,
I'm not.
telling you, I'm just this close to deleting my Facebook account. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just so close because
I would just take
I
it
got
off
on
your
there-
phone.
Well, I got on there to stay up with my friends. I got on it when I was overseas. I was
Oh
in
yeah,
Iraq.
yeah, absolutely.
I want to see what about my kids,
You know
and my
what?
grandkids.
Sure.
and
If
my
they're your friends, they'll call you.
my kids don't call me anymore.
But what I mean,
You
but
know.
what I'm saying is, I mean, here's the way I look. I mean,
It's kind of a problem.
I call you all the time.
Oh, sure, yeah.
You know, me and Tyler, we text, we call.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
whatever needs to be done. I mean, if you need to keep them in contact with you, I don't need to know.
And yeah, and I get that. But so many of the people that I deal with, so many of my friends in this industry are younger than me, and they don't like to call. It's text.
do you need to? Do you
even
need
my
them,
managers?
Do you need them in your life though? I mean,
Well, no,
honestly?
even my managers. I mean,
Well,
they're
that-
more of a texting thing. And they're talking about Facebook, and I'm like, oh, I don't know, I didn't really see that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what I had to look at. Like, you know, and I just use an example of, let's just say a guy that I met at the bar, you know, or I met at playing music 5 years ago.
Right.
Okay, and yeah, he was a hell of a good guy, and yeah, man, I hope he's doing.
But he's
real
really
well.
not in your circle. I mean,
But I mean, honestly, do I really need to see? So then, like, let's say I
Jealousy.
liked him, and then let's say he makes a post about something, you know, either political or whatever, and I'm like, well, geez, he isn't who I thought that son of a bitch was.
oh yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know, and
yeah,
it's like
immediately you're
yeah,
like,
and it's
yeah.
like, man, you know, I don't even need to know that, so I'm gonna keep
Good
it.
point. I mean,
And I'm going to say, if I need to look him up, I've got access to it. If I remember his name, that's what's kind of cool about the messenger thing. You can still message.
yeah.
you know?
Well, I mean, the
If
thing.
they'll answer,
I mean, here,
Well, if not, then we weren't friends.
Yeah,
and I didn't need to talk
exactly.
to some bitch anyway.
Yeah,
that would be my
practice-
child,
a
my
practice.
children.
Yeah, I mean, a practice,
sad
a practice
truth.
that I went through there for a while on Facebook is, I started blocking people. I would give them 3 political posts on either side, dude, whether I agreed with it or not, you know, and then I'd block them. But then, you know, when you block somebody, that's kind of a stiff arm, man. That's like a punch
is.
to the face. And then I could,
Dude, that's tough.
Then I start feeling bad, man. You know,
Well, hey,
so
like I said,
it's
I've-
easier to just not participate.
you know, my oldest daughter
Yeah.
blocked me. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and
Was
You
that
don't
all
think that's-
because of a Facebook post?
oh yeah, it was totally.
Well, so what if you were just giving your opinions at Sunday dinner or whenever you called
It would have
her?
been different.
And that, and
yeah,
that is my
and see,
She
point.
grew up with me.
And that
it's like
is
I'm
my
not
point.
a different person.
And
you know,
that
who the
is
hell do
my
you
whole
think
point.
I am?
Yeah,
I
that's
have
really
lost
strange.
friends. I have lost great friends over Facebook.
I know.
And I'm like, why
It's like
do I?
what? Because you're in this political forum
Delete
where you're
the
in
shit,
front
bud.
of people
Delete
and you got
the
to
shit.
feel like you're.
They don't need to see it. They don't need to.
It's
They,
like
they
because-
want to. They
because
don't need to.
I'm not a racist, and now you got a problem with that. That
Yeah.
was basically how I felt.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, nothing good. I'm convinced. I'm telling you, I have had the best. I hate to even say this because everybody's gonna be like, "Pud, shut the hell up." But I have had the best 2 weeks with my family that I have ever had. You guys have seen it.
Oh yeah. How much time were you spending on that?
No,
man?
but I mean, not any more than anybody else. I was average, but I wasn't.
I don't know what anybody else.
But I'm
would
not
be
pissed
then, because-
off. I'm literally.
Well, that makes a difference.
Like
It
you
does,
tell
yep.
me something.
Yes. Yes.
You tell me like, hey, did you see that on? No, I didn't.
Yeah.
And so, and you're calm about it because
I don't give a
know.
shit.
You know what you're talking.
You guess what, boys? I'm gonna go home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm fine. Yeah, I mean it's. I
At
mean,
the end of the day, I'm not stressed about it like I would have been.
I'm not at all.
exactly.
Like
Yeah.
you guys telling me this stuff. Well, guess what? I'm not gonna go home and give a shit about it.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's corrupt. I'm sure that, or not corrupt, but I mean, whatever. Look at it however you want to look at it.
I know exactly. It's like I don't
Yeah.
even know how to think about it anymore.
But
Is
guess
it
what? You know what I'm
corrupt or
thinking
bad or
about?
good? I
I'm
don't
thinking
even know.
about my family. I'm thinking about my next day, or I'm thinking about whatever I'm doing right now, or I'm calling one of
And
my
we
friends.
would like to all get back to that,
You-
know.
they
But
should.
I mean, I think there's an
Yeah.
atmosphere now where
Look how
we're
many-
having
look
a
how
problem
much
with
of that. Look
you
how
know?
much problems.
Yeah,
And-
yeah. I mean, I determined long ago, like I do not have the bandwidth to get upset with people about stuff that has nothing to do with either one of us.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you can't tell me. You cannot tell me that you don't change your portrait of them or change.
Oh,
their,
you can't help that.
Well,
You
yeah.
can't help it, and that's what
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
saying. You know, it's like, hey,
Yeah, yeah.
I liked them a hell of a lot better before I knew all that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like you can't.
Yeah.
You cannot help yourself.
Yeah. And I'm sure they think the same thing about me.
Well, that's what I mean. You know. Yeah.
And I think, you know, it's like, hey, if you want to get a hold of me, there's still plenty of avenues to get a hold of me. I mean, hell, we're this.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
hell, I'm easy to get a hold of. If
Yeah.
you really need to get me, you'll get me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know, but if you don't, and you just, because I'm convinced, even if you do well, people are going to not like you. I'm almost convinced that them just seeing you is going to
That right there is pissing people off.
It is. It
Oh,
is.
okay. So you're doing okay.
Yeah.
I don't have.
Yeah.
I'm not good with that.
Or not even
Yeah.
that. I mean, yeah, like I mean, I don't know, and I mean, it's just
You know, and I feel that way sometimes. It's like
Oh, I think-
some
I
people.
think-
I'm not like
Yeah.
hurting like everybody else.
yeah.
I am hurting. I just don't show it as much.
Sure,
you know what
yeah,
I mean? It's
yeah.
like
Yeah, oh, yeah.
just like we talked about retirement. You said when you're going to retire, it ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, 90% of my buddies are retired.
yeah,
Right.
You know?
yeah,
Right.
yeah, and you
I
don't want
can't-
to see that, do you?
No, it kills me. I'm retired. These shirts and these hats.
But what if you just
I
saw
just
'em-
want to. It's like I want to go up and just throw water in their face. It's like what the. You know?
yeah, and if you did away with Facebook, guess what? You wouldn't even think about it.
No, I wouldn't, except
That's
when
how-
I'm on vacation and
Well-
there everybody's wearing a "I'm retired" shirt.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
you
But-
know,
but it
whoever
would-
come up with that is an idiot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but guess what? If that's phase one, and you haven't been, and that hasn't been crammed down your throat on social media or whatever, and you guys are going into that meeting cold, you're a totally different guy.
Yeah.
It hasn't been eaten at you since the last time you saw
Yeah,
him.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not trying to sound, and hell, don't people will shoot me if I ever get it back. But and I still run. I have my hell. How many pages do I have? Shit.
A dozen probably.
Yeah, I mean, there's a dozen different Facebook pages that I have to manage. You know, for like either a group or like a. I do that Jeeping for Joy, and I do. You know, I got the bar, and we got Chubby Bartenders. Not that I manage Chubby Bartenders. Tyler does all that, but I get on it. I have to, see our stuff or whatever, and it's like, oh, I'm just going to do that, and then I'll see who coordinates with me or who likes my stuff
Yeah,
and
yeah.
who comments on it. But and I'm not saying I don't want to comment on yours. I'm just saying I had to personally just say like, man, this is just
Too much.
it's too much.
Yeah.
It really. And I, you know what? One key thing. I swear to you, I did this. Everybody that I looked up to didn't have it.
what?
Facebook.
Really? Were they older than you?
A lot of them. Well, yeah, all of them.
Yeah.
And I mean, they were
Probably even
people-
older than me.
Well, no.
I mean,
no.
I'm-
one of them's my age. One of my best friends, and I mean,
Okay.
Randy Kennedy. I look up to him love the guy. Love his family. Love everything about the guy. I think he's probably one of the happiest people I've ever known in my life. situationally.
A lack of Facebook. And see, if I had have shut my mouth on Facebook and not said that I
You and
don't
your family's
approve
good.
of the riots,
Yeah.
then I would still have my family.
One Facebook post ruins an entire
That
lifetime
did.
of family.
Yes, it did.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, and I'm just
Because
not,
I didn't approve of the riots.
Well, my
Yeah.
God, that tells you how powerful
That's
it is.
craziness.
it's crazy.
As a platform.
And that's what I'm saying. It's been, I cannot tell you how good my last 2 weeks have been. I mean, I have just, me and my wife have kind of fired things up a little bit, you know. But I can't, boys.
A little bit too much information.
Hey,
there.
you know, I don't mind bragging.
Is it time to cut the cameras? How long have we been on here now?
We've been at it a while. We do got to wrap it up. But
I think it's about to.
We're over 3. Even
we're
with
over
the
3.
problem.
Oh
You
my
are.
God, this is the longest one ever. I've
Ever.
been looking.
Yeah.
This is the longest one ever.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
You're the
'Cause I've
most
been-
interesting man I've ever met in my life.
And I thought I was going to be the worst person
Oh,
ever.
no,
I
man,
told my
this
wife I'm
flowed-
so nervous. I don't even know what I'm going to say.
This flowed just great, man. It was awesome.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
guys are cool.
Hey,
You guys are
hey,
cool.
You better keep in touch with me,
Yeah,
man.
I
will.
You know, I got your
I
number.
definitely
And,
will.
I can pass it on to Chad.
Yeah, absolutely. We got friends.
Now,
in
speaking of
Texas.
social media,
Yeah.
you know, you could find us wherever you're at.
Yeah.
From here forward, okay? You can comment on our YouTube page or whatever and say, hey, guys, you know, Sandy here and good to see you. And we could find a way, hey,
We'll
Sandy,
see that.
We'll,
Yeah.
we'll
Yeah.
see that, you know, but it's just all that opinions that go on.
Oh my! I mean,
And,
that's,
you know,
that's-
I know, and I've had to, like I said, ban myself from Facebook
Yeah.
because I was too vocal for just a moment in time.
So you're what, Sandy? You're let's see, you're 60. You're 59.
59, I'll be 60 in July.
I just man. He said he was 79.
smart.
79. I ain't civil service smart like you, but you know something. Not your generation. A little bit older than you truly may have a problem. Like there's some of them that just they think that that's their platform. Now, not.
I know what you're saying.
You know,
My mom would fit into that
inadvertently.
group, probably.
Inadvertently.
Inadvertently.
Yeah.
It's dangerous for them, I think. I
Very
mean,
much
not like
so.
life threatening, but like
So my wife works at CVS,
okay.
and she's like shift supervisor, whatever. I mean, they all are there because you work
Yeah.
by yourself half the
Boy,
time.
they
but-
do. That's a weird model.
Yeah, it's corporate hates people anyway. So these people in tonight, this lady came in wanting to buy five $500 Target cards,
Okay.
and she tried to put them on her credit card. My wife said, "Whoa! Do you know these people?" Yes, I know these people. An older lady.
Scam.
It was, of course, it was, totally. My wife sees this all the time, and she tries to shut these people down. You know, and
Yeah.
these people. Oh well, no, I know these people.
What kind of son of a bitch you got to be doing
to be
that?
preying on people like that. Man.
Foreigner that's not in the United States for one, and don't give a crap about Americans, or two, an American that doesn't give a crap about anybody.
Yeah,
So,
right.
you know,
Yeah.
I mean, and there's more than enough people out there. You can find them in this town. You can find them in every single region of the world. You know, and I mean that's who. You know, the older people have been targeted, and it's exactly what you're talking about. You know, I'm really scared about. The
I
older
get on my
generation.
mom and dad all the time. I'm like, what did you do? I'm like, did you put that on Facebook? Don't you do that? I'm like,
know.
just take it. Nope, don't be sharing that.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I think I got one forward from my dad one time, and I was like, I said, don't you ever.
Yeah.
Send me one of them forwards and get in Messenger. I said, you're going to be hacked. I said, I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
want to see it. I don't care. I don't give a shit. Stop it.
Yeah.
I
Don't,
said it.
don't communicate that way.
Man, I'll
Yeah.
tell you what, I do the ID Notify and I do the LifeLock, and I've been notified twice in the last week about hacks.
Oh, yeah, on your credit
me.
report and stuff. Yeah.
And so it's making me look at my Facebook stuff a little harder and thinking, am I being targeted because I didn't like the riots, you know, during the summer?
Huh.
Yeah, I don't know.
It may be. I don't know how all that shit works.
I don't
I mean,
either.
really. I mean,
Yeah.
it's got me. I'm thinking, do I need to? I don't know. Delete some stuff. I don't know.
Honestly,
It's not like I'm some sort of.
Here's what I would do. I would,
Crazy.
I here you are, 59 years old. You are way far ahead than me, my friend. Okay, you have ran way more than me. You're way smarter than I am. But I'm saying, go home.
That's a crazy statement.
Go home and list the 3 people that you admire the most, and then just challenge yourself. I don't even know who they are, Sandy. I don't even know you, but I would go home and see if the 3 people that you admire the most even have it.
Yeah, well,
I mean, I don't know, but I mean, that's what I thought. I thought, man, that guy really seems like it. That's a guy I like to be like, Nope, didn't have it.
I have to look at who I admire most.
Yeah, I
would go back to Barry Sanders, running back for OU. No,
He might have
actually
one, but he
OSU.
don't run it.
He was Oklahoma State.
Yeah, Oklahoma
I wasn't
State.
exactly an Oklahoma State person, but I like Barry Sanders. And here's a funny fact. So in '79, one of my buddies, and he went to Oklahoma State University, which I was an OU fan. He was OSU because they gave him a scholarship.
Yeah.
And I was like, he came home. I was like, how's that going? He's like, well, it's kind of wild. He said there was a alumni that had this brand new Cutlass that he wasn't driving, so he let me drive it. I was like, oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, well, how are you making money? He said, well, they gave me a job. They're giving me, $1,000 a month to run this sprinkler system. I was like, really? He said, yeah, it's automated. I don't have to check it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, so that's how that works. He says, oh, no. The restaurant
all above
owners,
board, bud. Yeah.
the food is free.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. So you don't get paid. This was in '79.
Membership has its privileges.
Yeah,
right?
so it was fun.
We got anything else, boys? Tyler, how long are we? 3 hours and some?
3:20, but if you take out our break, probably right around over
2:40.
3. Probably.
You got a lot of cutting to do there.
a lot of work ahead.
Sandy Hendrix, my friend.
Yes.
Been a pleasure.
Hey, man.
Been a pleasure. Sandy Hendrix.
Good talking to y'all.
True man of leisure.
Yes.
He's done everything. So, hey, guys, tune us in on YouTube at Chubby Bartenders. Just look us up. We got 30, 40 episodes by now that's going to be out there. You can watch any of them. They're on there for life. And also tune in on Spotify. Where you like to listen.
Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Sandy, where you listen to your podcast at? Do you listen to podcasts?
No, I do not.
Well, you do now. Yeah. So Sandy will be listening to us on all those platforms.
Yes, I will.
So, hey, hit that subscribe button, man.
Yeah,
That's how we
and
actually
subscribe.
figure out who likes us and who doesn't.
Please do,
Yes.
guys.
So hit the
For all
subscribe
my friends.
button.
I'll
Yes.
be putting this out.
Thank
a lot.
you.
Yes. All right. Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
See you.